And good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Had a little bit more time to process and try to move on as much as possible. And I'm still not over it. But we move forward anyway. Lots to do on a Thursday edition of the program. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Superbook. What's the line for tonight? It's got to be double digits, right?
Yeah, I believe it was 10.5 last time.
Sounds right. That sounds actually. You know what? That sounds like a line I might be willing to bite on.
With the
the Chiefs, for God's sakes. You know that they've won like 15 straight against the Broncos, something
I
like
do
that. They
know
have
that.
owned
I
the
pulled up all
Broncos.
their stats.
It is 10.5 is the number. 10.5. Now this goes though to what I talk about a lot of times though. The Chiefs sometimes struggle with big numbers, like bigger than a touchdown. They sometimes disappoint you. If you feel a way about it, superbook.com or download the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up. Take advantage of that same-day first bet match up to $250. Win or lose with Superbook.
Average margin of victory in those 15 games? 11.
How about that, Griffin? How about that? Coming up on the program, we will shift our focus to London a little bit more. That's where Derrick Mason is headed, former Ravens and Titans wide receiver. Of course, now with 102.5 The Game down in Nashville, we'll talk to him about the Titans. We'll get some thoughts about how it could be that everyone dropped the ball last week. Maybe he could make a catch cleanly. I wouldn't doubt it. It's the great Derrick Mason. He'll check in with us later. Also, Derek Rackley, who will be on the call for Westwood One on Sunday in London. He will check in with us a little bit later on to preview the game as well. And coming up this morning, we will make some picks with our buddy Ken Zalis. And Kenny Albert will join us as well. Of course, his book is A Mike for All Seasons, Fox NFL play-by-play man. Still also, of course, does the NHL with TNT, and we'll get some thoughts from Kenny about his time here in Baltimore, where his career began. Well, I guess his career began when he was hanging out with his dad in New York as a kid. I'm 6 chapters into the book, and I've already gotten through a lot. Like his first job out of college was here in Baltimore with the Skipjacks. So we'll talk to Kenny Albert about the time that he spent here. So all of that coming up on the program today. I struggled with watching baseball last night. I told you guys, I kind of called my shot on this. When we were at 105.7, they had the Phillies game on, and so I kept looking up like, holy crap, they just hit another home run. Like, holy crap, they are throttling them. This is wild, Jack. And unfortunately, the WNBA game wasn't good. I was like, this is how I'll distract myself from baseball. I'll watch some hoops. And then the Aces were like, yeah, this isn't a series. This is like an exhibition for us. We're just going out and showing everyone that we are the most loaded and best. I mean, it's nuts how good that team is. So I popped back in on the Diamondbacks. I did see them hit the home runs, the 4 home run in. It was a big night for home runs. I think it's like everything was a home run last night, right? Because the Astros got home runs from Brantley and Abreu. They got all their runs by home runs.
I think so.
So the Astros, at the moment, would be the only team of the 4 teams that got the bye that would, unless the Braves were to rally somehow, the Astros would be the only team, and that's after. So we would then have 5 out of the 8 teams over the last 2 years to make the championship series would have been teams that played in the wild card round. And now that we're not really talking about it in the form of an excuse, I do think that will be enough of a sample size that baseball will go back to the drawing board in some capacity. I don't even know at this point if it matters if the Braves were to rally, right? Like, I think that the fact that it's been so much, they will revisit it. And I don't know, because publicly the Orioles, they can't come out and say it because it sounds they get killed. If Brandon Hyde, if Brandon Hyde came out and said today, dude, it was the break, then he'd be dragged for it. The break was the reason why Grayson Rodriguez couldn't get out of the second inning. The break was the reason why Dean Kramer got his brains beat in. The break, that's the reason. Because the bigger argument is the break is affecting the bats, right? Like that for other teams, their hitters are going cold during the time off, and they've lost their rhythm, and they've lost their – that's the argument that's being made by baseball people. So if Brandon Hyde were to come out and be like, yeah, it really killed us, I feel like there would be a lot of pushback coming for that.
I guess you can look like Kershaw got rocked, Lantolin got rocked, Bradish and Bradish was okay. Grayson and Kramer got rocked. Like, is it affecting the pitchers too? I mean, again, like we don't know if this even matters.
That's it's a harder sell on pitchers because pitchers don't play every day. It's not like not pitching for a week. That's not that abnormal. Pitchers skip starts sometimes. Like I don't think I can buy into the break impacting the pitchers in the same way. So to the point, maybe if you really look at the evidence, you would say, yeah, it ain't actually the break. Like, that's not actually the case. Now, the Orioles' bats did go quiet outside of game 2, right? Like, they weren't very productive. But again, the evidence would be that they weren't productive at the end of the season either. So I don't know that you can look at scientifically and I think scientifically you would say the Orioles just lost. It's just what happened. But I do think that baseball is going to take a bigger look at it given all of the circumstances. And does it explain why, for example, Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts were doo-doo in their series? That's going to be more of the argument that's presented. I think they were combined like 1 for 21 or something like that in the division series. It's 2 of the better players in baseball. And again, sometimes guys just go cold no matter when the games are played. That happens. Good hitters have bad weekends, have bad series all throughout the season. So you can't definitively prove that it's because they spent a week off. The NL would say it's even worse. They had a week off, and then they had to take another day off after they played one game. Like, it was just bizarro land. So I do think that baseball will go back to the drawing board. How drastically different it will be, this is what we talked about with Carl Ravitch the other day. I think the idea, I've said a few times, John Smoltz's idea to me makes sense. A couple of people within the baseball community have brought this up. Well, present it to the teams. Say, hey, we'll give you a choice. You can either have the bye, or you can play in the wild card round, and see if any of them choose to play in the wild card round. We can sit here and hash this out all we want and say that it's not a benefit, but, tell me the team that's saying, no, we'd rather go play a best 2 out of 3 series with our life on the line than to just go ahead and advance. You're not going to get that. So it does complicate things, but it would seem like without doing something extraordinary, because ESPN's not going to be interested in giving up a few of the points that have been made. You could go back to a 1-game wild card, right? Like that. Remember, the 1-game playoff was the best thing that baseball had ever done. It was awesome. I mean, it was must. When the Orioles stunk, when they were dreadful in 2009, man, I would be fired up for that day of the season. I would be completely checked out on baseball. I mean, utterly checked out on baseball for an entire summer. And then all of a sudden, you get to Tuesday, 2 days after the season ended, and it was the most exciting day of baseball all year.
Whenever you had a game 163, it was.
Didn't the Royals win one of those?
And then that was the year that they beat the Orioles.
I don't think it was. I feel like
that was they played the A's and it was a crazy.
It was one of the wildest things you've ever seen. But I don't
something.
feel like it was that year. I feel like it might have been the year before, and it sort of set the tone. Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible that you're right about that, but I feel like why? Well, the Orioles did have home field advantage in that series, so you might be right. Maybe it was 14 that the Royals won that game. But the 1-game playoff was just unbelievable theater. I mean, just spectacular theater. But that's it for if.
Yeah, they beat Oakland 9-8 on September 30th, 2014.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was the same year. Oh, but I think I've conflated it with they didn't win the World Series that year.
Yes, right.
They lost the World Series that year and then won the World Series the following year. Correct. 2015. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the math that I did there. They made the World Series that year. They lost then they came back and they won the World Series.
Coco Crisp was still in that A's team.
And that was a Royals team that had all of the speedsters. That had Terrence Gore and
Alcides. Well, I guess Alcides Escobar was fast.
Yeah, but he wasn't that guy. It was Terrence Gore and was it Billy Hamilton? Was he on that?
I think Billy Hamilton was on that team.
It was like they had 3 guys on the roster that were literally just on the roster to come in and pinch run late in games.
Escobar stole 30 bases that year. Lorenzo Cain, Gerard Dyson.
Dyson was the other one. Because Cain was a star. Cain was there. He wasn't coming in late in games.
Right.
Dyson was the other one.
Terrence Gore was on that team.
Was Hamilton on that team?
I feel like he was. Unless he was. What did he come up with the Reds?
Well, he did come up with the Reds. That did happen.
So maybe he wasn't there.
Maybe he wasn't there yet.
The following year.
Yeah, he was. Maybe that's what I conflated it with. Anyway, the moral of the story being, I don't think that they're going to adjust it for a 1-game playoff ever again because ESPN, this is the end of their baseball season, and it gets that they're giving up inventory in the process. So could baseball trade it off with them and say, well, we can maybe extend the division series out to 7 games? I think that's another at least warranted discussion, is going to 7 games, the division series, if you're going to trade it off. And if that's the case, then are you able to trade with ESPN and Fox, and TBS, we've got to give ESPN 4 or 5 games in the division series now because they're losing inventory of the wild card series. I don't know. That's a baseball problem that none of us really care about. But I would love the return. For the sake of theater, I would love the return of the 1-game playoff. Is it fair? I would say the argument is it's not fair to the one division winner that has to play in the wild card round. Like they won their division. But it seems like it's very rare that the third division winner won like 100 games. It seems like for the most part the third division winner is a team that
like the Brewers that won 90.
Yeah, that typically doesn't have even as good of a record as the top wild card team. There would be a year where the 3 division winners win like 102, 101, 100 games, and it would be pretty patently unfair for a team that won 100 games to have their season come down to 1 game.
Should have won 102.
You're right. Like, I hear you, but I know that conversation.
Right.
If they went to that conversation inevitably would come up. Inevitably, there would be a year where the third division winner would have had an extraordinary record, and then we would see it coming for like 2 weeks down the stretch. We'd be talking about how unfair it is. Imagine if it were the Orioles. Like, we would see it coming from out. Dude, they got to push for this because they could have their season come down to 1 game. Is that a good reason to not do it? Is just in case that were to play out? I will still forever be in favor of the theater of the 1-game playoff. It's so unique.
Maybe they bring back game 163s, so that way you still have like the chance.
But it would still be
it'd still be rare.
And you would still have the scenario where if again it's 102, 101, 100. If the third team wins 100 games, there's no game 163 for them. They're just the third seed. That's all they are, and they're in this thing. That's the way that it goes. So you'd have to think about that side of it. I still think baseball would be better served to have. I really think they'd be better served to have a 1-game playoff. Would they, in their minds, think about expanding it out to 8? Ugh, it becomes basketball, right? Like, it just becomes.
Like, I think nothing's, I guess, ever going to be perfect, but I feel like having the 5 teams, the 2, it was fair having just, like going back to the way it was from 12 to 20 or 19, I guess. And that's going to be impossible. Like, that's not going to happen. They're not going to go back. They're not going to say less teams get into the playoffs now, less again. And that's what it is. It's the television. No one's going to want to give up.
Yeah,
games.
I mean,
but
again, if you're expanding the division series to
like
7 games.
The most fair
I guess
when the 2 wild cards had to play each other. And
so all the 3 division winners get in, and the 2 wild cards play each other for that right. And
which is the way it was.
But then you always have the scenario where it's the same thing. One of the wild cards is 100 and some game winner that just happened to be the Rays would have had 1 game The Rays would have been the second best team
And they
in
would've
the
played
American League,
The rain.
and they would have came down to a one-game scenario with their season on the line. And that's always therein lies the rub. And at some
then
point,
they need to do the
right, at some point,
conference. Or,
oh, you just put all the
do the
teams in the
league,
same
the
league,
league
and then you
rankings.
rank them that way. I think a lot of people believe that was going to come anyway at some point. It's interesting, but the teams don't want it because they want the Orioles like the fact they can charge more for division games.
Right.
And that's the reality. The reality is baseball, they need to prove why certain games matter. It's one of the things that college football is going to have to deal with, right? Like, how in these new super conferences do you know which games matter and which games don't? Right? Like, what games matter to SMU when they join the ACC? I guess just
Clemson will matter.
the
I
big
guess.
but Clemson won't be in the ACC for very long. Like, Clemson and Florida State will get out before too long. But yes, in the immediacy, Clemson and Florida State will be the games that matter. And then when they're out of the league, what you're trying to sell the big Virginia Tech SMU matchup? The thing that everybody's waiting for, SMU Pitt. Got to get your tickets for this one. Big showdown between SMU and Syracuse. Everybody's been waiting. The SMU Cal rivalry is as significant as anything in college sports. You get the point. The teams want there to be divisions because they want the fan bases to know these games mean more for whatever reason, because then they can charge more for the tickets and expect a bigger crowd and expect that there's going to be a little bit more history, and those fans are more likely to travel because they've been there before, and it's the whole thing. They want to have a way to mark that certain games mean more than the other games do. So I don't know that they'll get to the point where they just scrap it all together.
Is there? Can they do it? I mean, I guess.
If your argument is,
meaningless.
and I've talked about this with the NFL before, if the argument is, go back to the 5-team thing, and you win your division, you're in the playoffs, but we only seed by record, right? Like, now I'm listening. That you get in. I've said this before with the NFL. I have no problem.
The Twins win, 84 games or whatever.
Then they're in. They get to be in the playoffs, even if there's a team that has a better record than them.
Like, if the
winning your division gets you in, but it doesn't guarantee you a high seed. That winning your division only guarantees you whatever a spot at the table.
Okay.
If you have 84 wins but win your division, by the way, Diamondbacks won 84 games. Go figure. But you win 84 games, you get in, you get to be the fifth seed. You go on the road. But I don't think they're going to give back playoff spots. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I don't see that occurring.
So we're stuck.
I think you're stuck.
They just got to
But
figure
they
out a
gotta
way
figure
to
out-
time it out.
Yeah, I think that the easy things to say are start the series on Friday. I completely agree. That was Smoltz's take. I completely agree with it. Start the series on Friday.
Which they should have done anyway.
100%. They want to stagger it but the staggering part is very difficult. Like, it's a very difficult thing to do. But they want to stagger the series so that they don't have any days where nobody's playing. They want to make sure that that every day during those rounds there's baseball going on. But it's awkward to start a series on a Friday and then have 4 teams take off on Saturday. That goes back to the problem that now you have teams that have only played one game in a week. So you got to do something about that too. Maybe it's best for baseball they don't play on Sunday. Maybe that would be a good thing for baseball to start it on Friday, play Friday, Saturday, take Sunday off. Recognize there's another thing that happens in our country. Like, all good. Well, right back to action on Monday. Yeah. And then go from there. But they like staggering and then they would get to the point where they'd have the awkwardness of, like, Wednesday they could have all of their own, but that would be their travel day again, for series to go back for a game 5.
Maybe they change, instead of going 2-2-1 they do 2-3
They used to do
3-2.
They used to do 2-3, but that was also unfair for, like, a team to have to start on the road. You finish with 102 wins, you shouldn't have to start the playoffs on the road.
Yeah. Well, maybe I guess 2-2-1's probably.
It's by far the most fair way of doing it. Look, man, there's no perfect answer here. I do think that starting on Friday is the first thing I've heard. I also, as far as expanding the division series to 7 games, it wasn't going to make a difference for the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles are going to lose no matter what. you don't really want baseball bleeding closer to Thanksgiving. Like, that's – if you did a 7-game division series, you'd now have to build in – well, you just make it 2-3-2. You wouldn't go 2-2-1-1-1. So you do 2-3-2. So you'd add 2 days. You'd be talking about the season now ending like around November 7th or so would be when the season would end. Now we get back into the conversation of should they just shorten the regular season? And yes is the answer, but they won't do that because they're not going to give up the inventory. I'll start by saying I'm in favor of starting on Friday. And if you started on Friday, then you'd really only be extending the season by a day if you went to a 7-game division series. So I'd be in favor of both. It's a playoff series. I mean, it should be best of 7, right?
I guess.
I think we've grown accustomed to a 5-game division series, but why?
Then these stats are just going to continue. It's going to always be.
You have a 5-man rotation during the course of the season, and all of a sudden
you only need 3 or 4.
You're going to a. I'd change it. 7, best of 7. I'm in favor. Thumbs up, best of 7 division series. Right. Start on Friday, best of 7 division series. Not a perfect solution. I don't think it changes many results this year, but I think it's better than what they have. And now, of course, that means they'll probably do something far more dramatic than that. They'll probably do something wildly dramatic, like just insanity. Like, we'll play all the series on the moon. Something like that.
Yeah. Makes the baseball go further, though, probably.
It's true. Yeah, that would be compelling for television. You're right about that. Like could you say play the wild card series at the location where the team's going to be playing the division series so that you could advance? No, that's too much. You need it to be at home. You need the atmosphere. Yeah. Playoff baseball is not the same without it. You got to do that. I don't know that we solved anything here, but the hell. I mean, would you rather talk about?
Why couldn't the Orioles just win?
Yeah, we wouldn't have to worry about any of this. Be getting ready for Game 5 tomorrow night. Life goes on. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. BuyAToyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out BuyAToyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. We had to do this a little bit earlier on because of his schedule shipping off to foggy London town, and I apologize in advance. He was at the airport, so there's a little bit of background noise. Sorry about that, but it's Derrick Mason, and whenever you get the chance to catch up with Mace, you do it right here on GCR. Of course, coming up Sunday in London, Ravens-Titans, and you can't say the words Ravens-Titans without thinking about our next guest. The best receiver, frankly, in the history of both of those franchises. He, of course, now is with 102.5 The Game down in Nashville. He is our friend, Mr. Derrick Mason, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Mace, it's Glenn. It's so good to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Anytime. Just sitting in the airport right about now.
Yeah,
so
you're getting ready to.
Delayed a little.
I heard you were headed over the pond. Have you been over there for a game before?
No, I haven't. So I'm looking forward to just spending a few days over there and doing a few things with both the Ravens flock as well as the Titans.
That's cool, man. That's a really cool. I mean, I guess there's worse ways to make a living these days than to be like hanging out with fans in London ahead of a game. That doesn't seem so bad at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens.
This is the important question, Mace. If needed, after the performance of the Ravens wide receivers last week, if like in the second quarter they're dropping 4 balls again, could we maybe pull you down, get you dressed? Would you still be able to help out at all at that point?
I can go for maybe one comeback and
hey, bro.
Hit drop. Maybe that's it.
Hey, bro. Knowing how you ran them, I'm taking them. I'm taking them at this point. Oh, that was rough for us last week. That was a rough display. And of all games, the Steelers game to be when you're betrayed by your hands. Oh, it's brutal. Mace, on the flip side, I know the Titans come into this one off a tough loss. It feels very Jekyll and Hyde right now with the Titans, right? Like, how would you describe their inconsistencies coming into this game?
I think a lot of it boils down to the offensive line. The offensive line is the Achilles heel of this offense. Not and not having Nicholas Petit Frere because he's suspended the first 4 games was a big loss. And then you're trying to work in your first round pick, Peter Skoronski, who had an emergency surgery, so he missed a few games. And Dylan hasn't been the the player they thought he would possibly be when they got him in free agency. So right now, this offensive line is a work in progress. They played a little bit better last week, but yet still, this has been their Achilles heel. This is a team that loves to run football, and they haven't been able to run it effectively all season.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it fair to still say that this is a team that goes as far as their run blocking and Derrick Henry can take them?
Yeah, because, if you look at it, Ryan Tannehill is one of the best play-action quarterbacks in the National Football League over his 5 years with the Titans. And when he can't get that run game going, then that play action is non-existent. They got a few shots last week, DeAndre Hopkins, and he made a few big plays, but they were not able to get enough, and they was just that run game going the way that they thought against a Indianapolis front that were missing, one of their key players is Shaq Leonard. Forrest Buckner was beat up, so they only had one of their true top players, and that was Franklin, but they still managed to keep the Titans running game in check.
Well, I'm hoping that continues. No offense. I'm just hoping that's the case. He's Derrick Mason. He's with us here on GCR. Mace, you bring up Ryan Tannehill, right? And, of course, the Titans spent an early-round draft pick on a quarterback, and whenever that happens, there's always going to be whispers and questions that are going to be asked. Hey, if there's a couple of bad weeks, are they looking to make a move? Where are they at with both Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis? Is it like a goal for Levis to play? Is the idea that, hey, no, we stay in this thing all season? We don't want to see him on the field. This is still Ryan Tannehill's team.
I think this is still Ryan Tannehill's team. I don't think they envision, either quarterback, either one of the young quarterbacks, Will Levis or Malik Willis, who really played well during the preseason. Malik Willis did, and Levis, he was hurt, so he didn't get the opportunity that I'm sure he wanted. But even coming into the season, I think their plan was to stick with Ryan Tannehill, and because he gives them the best opportunity to win. So unless this team goes on a 4 or 5 game losing streak, I can't see them putting either Will Levis or Malik Willis in the game. So it's all this division isn't a really good division. So
that's fair.
As long as they can stay in it, then Ryan's going to remain the quarterback.
The receivers area, you know a thing or two about, obviously. I guess specifically DeAndre Hopkins, we had heard that the Ravens maybe were poking around in the offseason, and they decided to go with Beckham. What have the Titans gotten from DeAndre Hopkins? Where is he at this point in his career?
I think they've gotten what they expected to get. I think the problem is that Traylon Burks has been hurt. Even when he's been on the field, he's dropped a lot of balls. He's been a 50-50 catcher, which I didn't expect, but it's happened this year. Now, he's dealt with some injuries as well. He dealt with knee injury early in camp. Without a few weeks, tried to give it a go the first 2 or 3 games of the season. And I'm sure he was affected by it, but he didn't play last week. He may not play this week. So they were looking for Traylon to be their big play guy and D-Hop to be that intermediate guy. But right now, because of Traylon isn't playing the way they want him to, D-Hop has become the number one guy, but he's not getting the numbers down the field that he used to. He's doing work underneath. He'll make some big catches here and there, but this offense doesn't have any explosiveness, from the receiver position at this point in time.
Well, let me go to the other one, which is tight end. Of course, the former Terp, Chigakonkwo. We thought maybe he was primed for like a breakout, kind of turn towards stardom season, and he's barely been involved. What's been going on there?
It's the same thing with what you mentioned, at the beginning with the Ravens receivers. They're dropping balls. Chigakonkwo, who I was high on coming into camp because he's one of those guys that can, give you explosive plays, but he hasn't given it to you. He's dropped way too many passes. He's doing some comfortable at times out there. He caught a few last week, but it wasn't what they expected. So he's been a slow start, and that contributes
No
not
doubt.
too many teams is methodically moving the ball down the field anymore. You got to get you some big plays here and there, and the Titans just haven't gotten it.
Mace, the defense, we saw them put up like a brilliant performance against the Bengals, and I know the Bengals maybe weren't quite fully right yet, but again, I don't know. What is this Titans defense at this point? Like in moments, it seems like they're capable of being really good. In other moments, they seem pretty susceptible.
Well, it's a defense that if the defensive line is playing the way that we know they can play, which is a dominant front, then the defense is okay. If they're not, then it exposes the back end. They have a real serious problem at the corner position. Bolton, whether, at one point he's injured, and then if he's not injured, he's giving up big plays down the field. They got a young guy in Roger McCreary who's pretty good, but he's still learning the game. He's probably their most solid defensive back, but they're having trouble across the board. The back end is not playing well. The two safeties, and it's uncharacteristic of a secondary led by Kevin Pyre if they're playing the way that they're playing. So if that defensive line isn't, stout like we have become accustomed to seeing them, then that back end suffers because, I said the offensive line was the Achilles heel. Well, on defense, it's the secondary.
That's interesting, and hopefully for us allows an opportunity for the Ravens to maybe get going after a disappointing week. Mace, if I could, on this side of things, I mentioned the Ravens' problems with drops, but this is now 2 games the Ravens have had this season where they have played a team that was pretty clearly inferior to them and either played down to their level or just kind of fell apart when they faced some adversity. How surprised have you been by a team that has so much going for them that they have been so up and down this season, the Ravens?
I'm surprised. A little bit can be, he's still trying to get used to him. He's still trying to get used to Zay Flowers. He's still trying to get used to Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
Odell has dealt with injuries, this year as well. So, he's only played, 3 of the 4 or 5 games that the Ravens have had. So they need to start building that rapport with him as well. But last week, I just thought they had too many drops.
It's
they
insane.
had 2 drops in the end zone for clear touchdowns by guys. Frankly, Andrews, you never see him drop
Right.
the ball, but he dropped 2 in that game. One was for a touchdown. And then Bateman, I believe, had another go right through his hands in the end zone. So I think Lamar, majority of the times, is playing well, but you can't have those drop passes in games, especially against Pittsburgh Steelers.
Have you ever seen a day where somebody drops a ball and you're like, wow, was that so and so? Was that Heap? Was that? And then it just sort of became contagious. Did you ever have a day like that where for whatever reason it almost became mental?
Oh yeah, I remember a game like that against Cincinnati where it was one drop and another. And I'm like, what's going on here? Myself and other guys, uncharacteristic drops, and it happens in games. And what you got to do is come out the next game and get back to your old self and catch the football. And Lamar is going to continue to go at those guys, especially Andrews. Andrews drops the ball. He doesn't care. He's going to go back and go wide because Andrews catches more than he will ever drop.
Right. Yeah, it is Mark Andrews that we're talking about. That's a good one. I almost wonder if, coming out of the shoot on Sunday, you purposely in your first drive try to get the ball to every receiver on the team, just to get some good vibes going again. Wash it out.
You have to. You got to keep those guys engaged. You got to keep them a part of the game. And I know just because they had a few drops, that's not going to deter, Lamar from going back to him.
All right. Derrick Mason, what else is going on in your world, man? Anything else that we can plug for you, brother?
Nothing much. Just, I have my Men Wear Pink campaign for breast cancer.
Yep.
So you can go to the Men Wear Pink website and search for my name and donate. So we're just trying to raise as much awareness and money for those who have dealt with or are dealing with breast cancer. Because now it's not only women, but it's men that have breast that can have breast cancer as well. So any and everything we can do on my end here in Nashville, I try to do it. Raven fans are listening. Just go to menwearpink.com. menwearpeak.org, and search my name and donate.
That's awesome, man. We love that you continue to do that. And, of course, you can find him at DEE Mason, DMason85 on Twitter. Derrick Mason, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, brother. Thank you for taking the time. Enjoy the trip overseas, dude.
Anytime, you know that.
It's the great Derrick Mason with us here on GCR ahead of Ravens Titans this Sunday. Yeah, Titans are a very difficult team to figure out because just when you're ready to write them off and say, oh, they're garbage, then they, turn around and beat the Bengals, and you're like, oh, they beat the Chargers, right? And you're like, I guess they're going to be a factor for a little while. Like, I think they stink, but they have just enough pieces to not, and if the game goes the way they want it to go, then all's good. I have no idea how they handle playing in London. That's what makes everything about. God, I wish we didn't have to include the Ravens game in picks this week. I have no feel. I understand when John from Little Rock brought that up the other day. Like, can we just pick the under instead? It is so hard to pick a London game because, like, it doesn't feel like you're picking a football game. It feels like you're picking a who's
gonna wake up. Feeling good.
They shared pictures on the Ravens website of the place where they're staying. It really is like a castle. It's called, I think, Hanbury Hall. Make sure I have that right. Hanbury. Yeah, Hanbury or Hanbure, Hanbury Hall is where the Ravens are staying, and it's wild, man. Like, it's a wild place. They put a bunch of pictures up on their website of that spot. That explains the room that Marlon Humphrey was showing. You're like, that doesn't look like a fancy hotel, because it's not. All right. First of all, speaking of the Ravens, they've got an official game watch party for the London game happening at Guilford Hall Brewery. It is the place. Are you looking at it now? Are you checking out Hanbury Hall?
I'm trying to. I can't find the exact pictures.
Hang on a second. Ravens Hanbury Hall. Photos. If you search Ravens Hanbury Hall, you get photos inside Ravens London training facility.
On Twitter or Google?
Just Google it. Google, Ravens Hanbury Hall, and the first result is photos inside Ravens London training facility. And or it's Hanbury Manor, I guess, not Hanbury Hall. Hanbury Manor. And it's I don't know how to explain it. It looks like a castle. It really does. Like, it looks like a and I guess that's where they're practicing too. I guess that's where, like, everything is located inside this, whatever this thing is, this compound. And it's wild, Jack. These are all photos of the outside for the most part. Then they finally get the photos inside, and I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy place. All right, anyway. Official watch party is at Guilford Hall Brewery on Sunday morning. That is the place to be. If you're ready for the biggest game day party in Baltimore, join us at Guilford Hall Brewery Sunday, October 15th for the official Ravens London game watch party. We're getting started early with live music, bottomless mimosas, unlimited Guilford beer, Dunkin' coffee, and signature cocktails, games, the Kids Zone, appearances from special guests, including Ravens legend Jimmy Smith, the Ravens cheerleaders, the Marching Ravens Band, and Poe. Doors open at 8 a.m., so rally your flock, and we'll see you at Guilford Hall. This event free to the public with all-you-can-drink wristbands available for purchase. Visit guilfordhall.com for more information. We come back in. A veteran edge rusher appears as though he is officially on the market. We'll tell you about that, and then we'll make some picks with KZ. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 17th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels, and if you or a loved one have a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? AJ Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Make sure you're tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox Fantasy Football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
Saturday, October 28th, Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. The Baltimore County Police Department hosting a hiring event. You've been thinking about a new career, different path. Everything is right there for you. Competitive salaries, opportunities for advancement, specialized units, great signing bonuses, tremendous benefits. It's all there with the Baltimore County Police Department. And on the 28th, if you show up, you can go through the written test, the agility test, the application process, all right there. If you're not sure, you still have some questions, get them answered that day. And for those of you that aren't thinking about it, it's still a wonderful community event because it's a trunk or treat. So it's a nice, safe, pleasant environment for your kids to get out in their costumes, get some candy. October 28th, Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson with the Baltimore County Police Department. 410-887-4584 or join BaltimoreCountyPD.com in order to find out more. Frank Clark has taken a pay cut that we are to understand either will set up a trade, or the Broncos will simply release him and make him available. Now, by name, Frank Clark sounds really exciting. In reality, it sounds pretty redundant to what the Ravens have done in the last couple of years, which is pick up guys on the scrap heap. Frank Clark has not been the same productive player the last couple of years of his career. We remember, of course, Frank Clark being a double-digit sack guy in Seattle, and even when he got to Kansas City, he was still productive, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside. The last 2 years, in 2021, 4.5 sacks. Last year, 5 sacks. Given how little the Ravens have, I'm by no means saying no. They're desperate in the edge rush department. Desperate. I don't know why you'd be trading for Frank Clark. If I'm trading, I'm setting my sights much higher than that. There is belief that the Broncos are going to go through a fire sale, and so I was poking around a little bit. I was telling Griffin, I'm like, I was poking around with the Broncos. They have an edge rusher who's having an amazing season that I know nothing about. Nothing at all about Nick Bonito. It was a second-round pick a couple years ago. He's got 5.5 sacks already. I wouldn't think that in a fire sale you get rid of a young player that's very productive. But who knows? Frank Clark is available, and if it's for like a pick swap or if he gets released, sure. Throw one more guy into the mix. What could that hurt? But I think the Ravens need to have their sights set a bit higher because edge rush to me is desperate town. All right. It's time for us to make our picks this week. Joining us now, he is our buddy Ken Zalis. What's going on, KZ? How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. You have any interest in Frank Clark?
I agree with what you said. Same old, same old.
How about that?
That's
weird. That's weird for you.
I mean, it's a guy that because we know his name, we think is good, but he's not what he was, and not having a particularly great year. If you're going to tell me they're going to get him for a 5th or 6th round pick, sure, why not? I mean, throw everything against the wall you can get.
I wouldn't give up a straight pick for Frank Clark. I mean, again, I would do a pick swap. Like if they wanted to swap.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, give them our 6 for their 7.
Yeah. I have no interest in doing in giving up picks at this point. All right. Before we, so you are convinced that I'm giving up on Kareem Hunt and not on Anthony Richardson. Although that seems like it's just going to create a problem for me again because I'm going to need a quarterback during Tua's bye week, and Anthony Richardson's not going to be available to me. But I guess I'll deal with that then.
I don't see any unless somehow there's another injury in Cleveland. I don't see anything, and they don't right now. They don't have a quarterback that's healthy, so I don't see a universe where you have to rely at any point today on Hunt.
All right, now in another league, I need to give up either one of my quarterbacks. So I am carrying 3 quarterbacks in that league. Lawrence.
Can you start 2?
No, I can't figure out which ones I want. So it's Lawrence, Stroud, and Stafford. And I assume that I'm giving up Stafford. My other option would be my other option would be to give up Rashee Rice.
Yeah, we don't want to give up Rice because he looks like
he's coming into his own.
Could emerge as the guy that is most trusted from that wide receiver core. I guess it's Stafford. It's just one less headache. You can't give up on Stroud. He's been so good, and that's the decision for me. Is it Stroud? Is it Stafford? And even if I kind of look at it this way, I don't think the Rams season is going to head south enough where they're always behind and we're getting in the shootouts. Where I think Houston could at some point. And I like the guy that's going to be throwing more.
I do like
that.
Don't know. I do like. No, it's tough. That's why I've struggled with it.
It's probably Stafford. I let go for me.
All right, fair enough. Let's get into this week's picks. We are, of course, have this 11-man competition now, and we are all terrified of inviting Jeremy Kahn into our competition. As it turns out, when you force him to pick some games and he doesn't get to pick which games, Not quite as lethal, at least so far. Maybe I don't want to poke the bear here. Been a tough start for Jeremy. In 2 weeks, he's got just 7 wins. So I know there were there 2 pushes in there or just 1 push in there?
I think there was a push a week.
1 push in each week.
Feels like we've gotten a push a week for like.
Don't like that. We got to change that altogether. 9 games this week. Right now, Andrew Stetka and Ken Zalis tied atop the table.
Wow.
Kyle Ottenheimer and Nick Kelly 2 games back. Griffin, myself, John Proctor, John from Little Rock, all 3 games back. Paul Valley 4. Ryan Chell is at the bottom of the original table, 5 games back, but he is 12 games clear of, 18 games clear of Jeremy Kahn. So the bottom, whoever finishes at the bottom, Jeremy got a slow start. Whoever finishes at the bottom of the table has to come in here dressed as a leprechaun, the Notre Dame mascot.
Whoa.
I'm not supposed to say the other thing. I get it. Dressed as the Notre Dame mascot, has to consume blood sausage, tripe, and haggis. Has to wash it down with a Will Levis-style Irish coffee. Take an Irish dance lesson, then perform said Irish dance. Perform also Nothing Compares to You and Zombie here in studio, and what will be a joyous morning for all of the rest of us besides that person. Picks, the spreads are courtesy of our friends at Superbook, superbook.com. Download the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up, and you will get a same-day first bet match up to $250, win or lose. Griffin, where are we starting on the college side of things?
With no baseball Friday night, we go back to Boulder, Colorado for
No, we don't.
Colorado.
That is definitely not a game that we are including, Griffin.
Come on.
Not a chance in
Why
hell.
not?
No. Sorry.
Fine. Then all eyes go to College Park on Saturday at 3:30. It's going to be on NBC when the Terps host the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Terps are 14-point favorites.
Well, I know what Ken Zalis is doing here. Maryland's beat up. It's the weird part, again, is that they actually played pretty well against Ohio State, and then they just made stupid mistakes. Now, they do that a lot. That's the problem. That's not uncommon for this team. Illinois is not very good. I think they were expected to be better than they've been coming into the season. Their losses at Kansas, okay. Against Penn State, okay. You can understand those. But then they got shellacked by Purdue, and then they lost 20-7 to Nebraska. Like, there's just not a lot there with Illinois. I don't know why they've been as bad as they are. Their only wins are against Toledo and Florida Atlantic. Said it's 14 even.
14 even.
At home, I'll count on the bounce back. Give me Maryland.
The Illini.
Yeah, stunning. I'm so stunned that you picked.
I'd like to go into a whole thing, but let's just keep moving. I'm not picking Maryland all year.
So
yeah, I mean, Maryland outpaces Illinois in pretty much everywhere offensively, so I think that alone is enough. Illinois has also lost 4 or 5 straight against the spread, so I will take Maryland.
Yeah, the point.
Well.
They only beat Florida Atlantic by 6 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
Oh, I didn't realize they only beat Toledo by 2 points. Jesus, Illinois stinks. What happened to them?
They're awful.
Good? Yeah, why
the
hell would you take them? What are you doing?
They're awful.
I think Maryland put all their eggs in one basket and came up empty.
I mean, I could say the proverbial letdown. I get it. I hear you.
The proverbial bounce back.
All right.
3 on Illinois with Ken. It is Ken, Andrew Stetka, and Jeremy Kahn.
Ooh,
so
look at that 3.
I know.
I mean, the 2 at the top and the guy at the bottom of the table who hasn't been good since he joined our league. I don't know what to make of that.
Top 10 matchup. College game day will be there. We'll be in Seattle, Washington for number 7 Washington hosting number 8 Oregon.
It's game of the week.
3:30 on ESPN, and Washington is favored by 3.
That's pretty much just they're at home. That's
Yeah.
pretty much all that is. And Michael Penix obviously has been ridiculous this season. At the moment, he's the front runner to win the Heisman. This is really tough because what you want to say is Oregon's been in these spots before and Washington really hasn't. But Oregon hasn't really been in these spots since Lanning's been the coach. They played against Colorado a couple weeks ago, but Colorado's not good. I don't know what to make of this. I'm gonna just choose. It's 2 good teams. I got an opportunity to play the points. I'm just gonna choose to play the points and take Oregon. But I have no idea. And this is a great game, and this is a good Michael Penix This is an opportunity for him to start like sealing a Heisman Trophy if he comes out and plays brilliantly and Washington wins this game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to agree with all that. But I'm going to take Oregon.
That's what I did.
I think Penix has been great, but Oregon's played really, really well, and they've showed up in some bigger type games. And I think in the end it's only 3, and they can outscore them, and that's where I'm going to go.
I agree, but I am going to stay on Washington. I like Michael Penix a lot, and because they have Michael Penix, I am going to go with Washington. The only thing that does scare me is I feel like, this game is going to be a back-and-forth shootout, and if they were to go to overtime, now that there's just
they end up in the 2-point conversion. What is that, in the third overtime they go to that? Or
yeah, because, the second overtime they have to go for 2.
They have to go for 2 if they score a touchdown, but then the third overtime, it's just 2-point conversions.
One play. I'm going to stick with Washington.
For what it's worth, Washington coming off a bye.
Both teams are actually coming off a
did
bye.
Oregon not have a bye last week, too? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, both teams are coming off a bye.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I'm going to roll with the Huskies. Joining me on Washington will be John Proctor, Ryan Schell, and Jeremy Kahn.
How about that?
On Washington. Final college game of the slate. Number 10, the undefeated USC Trojans take on number 21, Notre Dame in the Fighting Irish at 7:30, also on NBC. Notre Dame is 2.5-point favorites.
They're favored by 2.5. Son of a bitch. I was hoping to get points with Notre Dame, and then I was going to talk about how USC's defense stinks, because it stinks. It is an abomination, USC's defense. But now I got to rely on Notre Dame to win a big game. No chance in hell. I'm not doing that. USC.
Yeah, I don't trust USC because
their defense
is just and not only that, but it's not like their defense this year is bad. Like, their defense has been bad. They haven't fixed it. They haven't addressed it. But it's not a big enough number for me to worry about that.
It's not a big enough number. The fact that they could lose and I still get the win. Like, it's insanity.
I know. So I give me USC.
Yeah, USC as well. Caleb Williams, I guess slightly better than Sam Hartman. I
agree with that, but again, the problem being,
and you can't trust Notre Dame at all.
It really is two things. You can't trust USC's defense, but you can never trust Notre Dame in a game that matters. In a game that matters, I can't trust them. Forget it.
Got killed by. I guess they didn't get killed, but they lost to Louisville.
I mean, you said they didn't get killed, but it was not. They were not.
Yeah,
they were not in it as the game got into the deeper part of the fourth quarter.
I will take USC. 3 backers of Notre Dame in the Fighting Irish: Dr. Nick Kelly, Andrew Stetka, and Jeremy Kahn.
All right,
taking the Irish.
I am against Jeremy Kahn on all of his college football picks, which should make me nervous.
Hasn't made you nervous yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to feel about it whatsoever.
Moving to the NFL at 1 o'clock on CBS, Seattle comes to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals are 3-point favorites, welcoming in Seattle.
Boy, it's really hard. There's so many layers to this one, right? You have Seattle coming off a bye, but a West Coast team coming across the country to play at 1 o'clock. The Bengals coming off their best performance of the year, but does that mean that everything's fixed? Or did they just play one really good game? What do I do with all that? And let's be fair, Seattle's played really well. Like, Seattle was clicking outside of the first game of the season. They've been clicking coming into this. Boy, this is risky. What the hell do you do with any of this? Why do I have to be first here? I don't like this. This one's tough.
They're Ken pick first?
No, because everybody else is supposed to have already made their picks, and that's why nobody's supposed to be influenced by anybody else's picks here. Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm going to take the home team here. They are at home, right?
Yes,
they are at home.
You didn't give me bad information again, did you?
No, he's got a history over there.
This is Paycor Stadium at 1 o'clock.
Okay. I'm just going to take the home team. I mean, they looked better last week. Chase was been unstoppable for 2 weeks. I believe
The Seattle secondary is a little bit different, though, bro.
Well, but I also think they've been a little bit banged up, and maybe they're healthy after the bye week. I haven't really, really haven't gotten into that a whole lot. But they were a little bit banged up beforehand. I'm going to take the Bengals at home.
I'm not going to take the home team when I don't think they're as good. I'm not really sold on the Bengals being back. I mean, they beat Arizona without James Conner using a running back that no one has ever heard of before this week. So I'm not sold on the Bengals. I think the Seahawks are a good team. So I will take Seattle. Go Hawks. And joining me on Seattle will be Andrew Stecca and Jeremy Kahn again. So.
I am 4 for 4 in disagreeing with Jeremy Kahn so far. 4 for 4.
Moving on, Washington at Atlanta in a big matchup for, I don't know who. But Atlanta's
who are we
favorite.
going to include that we decided not to include? Because we were going to include the Browns game, but because they're going to start P.J. Walker, we were like, we'll pass on that.
Atlanta's 2.5-point favorites welcoming in the Commanders.
I mean, I don't like either of these teams. I think they're both bad, and I think they'll both prove to be very bad by the time the season is over. I get that Atlanta's been spunky, and Washington had some life to start the season. I think these are two bad football teams that will combined maybe be around 10 wins to end the season. I just think that we're realizing that quarterback play matters. That said, at the moment, I think there's a little bit more life in Atlanta than there is in Washington, and with the number being small, I'll go with Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Really didn't like what I saw out of Washington as a team, although fantasy-wise, love what I got out of Mr. Howe last week. But Atlanta's starting to figure some things out offensively. Offensively last week, they were better and got more of their playmakers involved, and Robinson just looks special. So I'll take Atlanta here.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is the pick as well. I mean, they are better. They have the better team. They have they definitely have the better coach, I guess. Ron Rivera doesn't. I mean, he's not trying to win games anymore.
It's a really weird bit. You say they have a better coach. I have no idea. Ron Rivera is definitely a more accomplished and better coach than Arthur Smith has been, but to the point where it appears as though he's checked out.
Yeah.
He didn't address the team at halftime last week.
Let them talk to themselves. Yeah.
It's weird. I wish that we were in that market because, it would be the dumbest thing, but it would drive a week's worth of conversation. Like, we would get so much out of Ron Rivera or the head coach not talking to the team at halftime. Ken Zalis hates the head coach that's good. Like, imagine having the head coach that hasn't accomplished anything since he arrived in that city and didn't talk to the team at halftime. Like, it would be manna from heaven. But to say that Arthur Smith is a better head coach, I don't know what you're basing that off of.
Better X and O's coach, I guess.
If you say so.
And Ron Rivera, the one thing, whatever. The one thing that he was supposed to be, he's Riverboat Ron, and he's not that anymore.
Yeah, he's given up on that. Yeah, doesn't want to go for it anymore.
The only thing that worries me is the Falcons are 1-4 against the spread. They're two of their wins. They have a 2-point win over Houston, a 1-point win over Green Bay. So it was a
push last week. I know that because I bet American dollars on it.
Even so, I'm not going to bet on the Commanders again. I took them against the Bills, I think, and that was maybe the stupidest thing I've done. So, yeah,
it's up there. It's up there.
I'll go Falcons.
All right.
We are not split. 3 on Washington. Paul Valley, Kyle Ottenheimer, and Ryan Shell.
None of those guys know anything, so that's good. We're good there.
all the former board ops, all the former producers.
All of the former producers. How about that?
New Orleans at Houston, and this one is a near pick'em. New Orleans, they are 1-point favorites going into Houston.
That defense, man. That defense is something. I really like Houston.
Of the Saints?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Saints defense is ridiculous.
But are the Patriots they might never score again, so.
I hear you, but the Saints defense has been better than just that game. Like, that Saints defense has been excellent this season. Just weird because on paper, you don't look at it and say, like, what a unit that is. But they played nuts. 1 point?
1-point favorites.
I really like Houston, and because I like Houston, I just want to pick them, right? Like, just to commit to the bid a little bit. And so, you know what? I will. the hell, Houston. Go for it.
I like Houston too. I think they're on the right path. I think they got the right coach. I think their draft picks have been good. Different animal. That defense is nasty for New Orleans.
Nuts, isn't it?
I can't. I'll take New Orleans.
I get it.
Ken, you said Saints. Okay, staying on the Saints. Same thing. I don't really have too much to base it off of, other than I like D'Amico Ryans. I like C.J. Stroud. I like a lot of what's going on in Houston right now. And they're the home team. So even though the Saints do have a pretty strong defense, I'm going to
I'm immediately regretting the pick that I'm not going to change it, but I'm immediately regretting it because like I'm allowing my heart, like, and I don't even know why it's my heart because I don't have any feelings towards the Texans. It's more just like I'm a believer. I want to believe, but my God, the Saints defense is insane. Sorry, go ahead.
Texans. I like the cut. I like the cut. Of
I
the
hope
Texans
you're right.
jib,
I hope you're right.
Houston. On the Texans, myself, Glenn, Paul, John in Little Rock, Dr. Nick Kelly, Andrew, and Jeremy.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a nice little crew there.
Yeah,
I'll take that
so
crew.
on the Saints is Kyle, Ken, and Ryan.
Yeah, those guys stink. You got the wrong crew with you, bro. Those guys aren't good at this.
I don't know. I mean, somebody on this calls at the top of the table.
I understand that, but I'm saying with you, you got the wrong crew, right?
Oh, with me.
Yeah,
Okay.
with you.
I got you.
Go ahead.
Indy at Jacksonville. The Jags, they are 4-point favorites.
Man. It's the Gardner Minshew revenge game, too, isn't it? Jacksonville has looked better the last couple of weeks, but it's not like they've been brilliant necessarily as much as they've just looked better. Are we yet at a place where you're comfortable with Jacksonville to be a 4-point favorite against anyone, more or less a team that's also looked good the last couple times out? How much more involved do we expect Jonathan Taylor to be this week, Ken?
Can't be much less.
Am I starting him? Am I starting him over,
you have to. I mean, unless you have other top 20 guys.
What would my options be? Am I starting him
Look,
over?
I started him last week in a lot of places, and that was just
my options would be Gabe Davis, Roshan Johnson, or Jeff Wilson.
But we don't know if Wilson's playing yet.
Yeah.
Roshan, last we saw him, was concussed.
Yeah, but
Gabe Davis is a touchdown dependent guy. I'm probably playing him over those people.
All right, fair enough. I don't know. I'll choose to buy that Jacksonville figured something out while they were over in London. What do we know about teams that are coming back from London? What do we know about that don't get?
We know nothing about teams that have played 2 straight games in London and come back.
Not that.
It's never
But last
happened
year was the
before.
first year that we had teams that played with it. They didn't have a bye week after London, correct? That was last year. We got the first.
That was the first time.
Correct.
Do we have any evidence yet of what that does to a team trying to play in a bye week trying to play the immediately week after a London game? I don't know if we do. I don't know. Okay. Oh, here we go. Only 11 times in NFL history has a team returned home from Europe without a bye week. Okay, so it apparently didn't start last year. So 11 times. Every one of those.
I think the Ravens requested a few years ago not to have
a bye week. Huh. Every one of those teams was tied or trailing in the fourth quarter the following week. Indianapolis. I'm going to be manipulated by one tidbit. Indianapolis. Ken?
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Okay. I'm not going to do it. I think Jacksonville, I like what I've seen. I love how they played against the Bills. I love them featuring ETN. And the more they do of that, the better it's going to be against an Indianapolis team that defensively struggles at times. So I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I was already on the Colts, but yeah, looking at the other side of this experiment with the Jags, I don't think it's going to favor Jacksonville. And then, as you mentioned, the Gardner Minshew revenge game is enough.
It's a major factor,
even more.
Yeah.
So yes, I will take the Indianapolis Colts on the Jags. Just 2. It is Ken and John Proctor on Jacksonville.
That seems odd, doesn't it?
It does.
That really seems strange to me.
For such a close game.
Yeah, right? That's weird.
That's okay.
Second to last game of the slate, the only.
Now
game-
I'm kind of regretting it because now it feels like it's an opportunity for free points there.
Well,
Damn it.
Yeah, but if you win, you win. So.
Yeah, I hear you.
Lions at the Bucks in the 4 o'clock window. The Lions are going into Tampa Bay, and they are favored by 3.
It feels like a trap, doesn't it?
Nah.
I mean, it's 3. How's it trap?
Because it feels like the Bucks are coming off a bye, the Bucks are at home, and they're wearing the creamsicle uniforms, and they get points.
Tampa's wearing the.
Yeah. No,
Go ahead.
the Lions
Go
are going to wear
aid.
the creamsicle uniforms,
Go ahead.
Griffin.
That would
be
something.
cool.
Yeah, that would be wild, wouldn't it? By the way, the NFL recognized that they needed to flex this game into the national TV window because it was a good game. And guess what game we can't watch here in Baltimore?
The Lions.
Yep, we get Zach Wilson. Yay!
Who are the Jets?
Yay! They're playing the Eagles.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the Eagles are good. Don't get me wrong, but
I get to see the Eagles.
I understand that. I've had a hard day, and I hate the effing Eagles, man.
You'll be asleep by then.
That's a good point. I got a long day. Yeah, all right, fine. I'll take the Lions, but I don't want to. I wanna grab the Buccaneers here. I don't want to do it, but the Lions.
Not only will I take the Lions, but I want to take the Lions. I think they are really, really good. So, the Lions.
Since we're talking about the Bucks, it reminded me, Ken. Do I play Rashad White? I definitely play him over Javonte Williams tonight, right?
I mean, if you believe what's coming out of Denver, Javante's back and healthy and look good.
Didn't they say he was gonna be limited in the game, even though he practiced, I guess, full?
I don't know. I mean, look, they're close enough that I would play White.
Okay. And then I play White over like Robert Woods. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All
Who can be cut from your team?
Really, Robert Woods can be cut? He's getting targets, isn't he? He's gotten
he's at least third in targets on the team.
He had 9. I mean, he's just not getting catches. He's getting targets. All right, anyway, I'm going to take the Lions because, same thing. I think they're a good team. I think the Bucks are a decent team, but the Lions are better, and I don't really have any trust in Baker Mayfield in a quote-unquote big game here. So I will take Detroit as well. On the Buccaneers is Paul Valley, Andrew Stetka, and Jeremy Kahn looking to steal some points.
I'm telling you, I think it's a trap. I fell right into it, but it's a trap. It's a trap. Admiral Akbar. Have we reached are we at the Ravens game?
We are at the Ravens game.
Man.
Yeah.
I have an issue today, so we got to do this.
We got to move it along.
Okay, all right. From Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London at 9:30 a.m. on NFL Network, it is the Ravens and Titans. The Ravens, they are 4-point favorites.
How do you pick a London game, man? Like, how do you do it? What am I supposed to do with this? Like, we all like the fact the Ravens went out early. We think that's going to help them, but will they catch the football? Like that, I don't know what the Titans are. It's the weirdest season I think anybody's having in football. Like you just want to believe that they're garbage, but then they turn around and they beat the Bengals and they beat the Chargers, and I think the Ravens are better than the Titans. They should have been. They should have won comfortably a week ago, but they didn't. So now you're playing with 4 points. The Titans arrive late in London. Does that affect them? I will just throw everything out the window and say I think the Ravens should be 4 points better than the Titans are. And I'll choose to bet the Ravens because of it, but I don't feel good about this game in any way.
I'm right there because I just it's London. Yeah, we do feel good that they left early. I think that was a smart move by the organization. I don't think the secondary for the Tennessee Titans is any good at all. But I'm being sold a bill of goods of how great the passing offense for the Ravens is, and we just don't see it yet. And there's 2 out of the last 3 games, there's been whatever reasons. There's just a reason that they lose a game that they should have won, and 4 points is a lot. And I hate myself, but I'm going to take the Ravens because I think they're the better team.
we're all gonna be doing the hang our heads in shame after they.
Yeah, I don't like it.
After they win on a last second field goal, we'll all be like, how did we not see this coming?
You know what? At this point, Glenn, I don't even care. I just want them to win a football game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll take it, but we should know better than to be betting them to cover 4.
You're right. You are 1,000% right.
Yeah, same thing. It looks like they're trying to do everything right, and it seems like they are doing everything right. And yeah, on paper they're just a better team than the Titans. So I will take the Ravens. Nearly everyone is on the Ravens.
Except Andrew Stecca.
Not Andrew Stecca. Do you want to guess?
Who is
Jeremy
the lone wolf?
Who's the lone wolf?
Is it Jeremy?
Jeremy Kahn.
It's not Jeremy.
Ryan Shell.
Ryan Shell is lone wolfing this week.
Okay, I think the dirty little secret is that Ryan Shell is a closet Titans fan.
Really?
I'm not kidding about
What's
this.
wrong with him?
Yeah,
I think
I'm with you.
I know. I think
I
I remember there being a story from years ago.
Yeah, there's something
that
there. There's
like
something there.
that he had some weird affinity for the Titans that he never was able to let go of
Then
or
he'll
something
be excited.
like that.
This is a big AFC South week for us.
It is a big
big
classic. Actually, this was the AFC Central. This was a classic AFC Central
classic.
Mecca. I mean, this was the rivalry in the AFC Central between the Ravens and the Titans for years, and then the divisions changed. All right, KZ.
Are we doing a 1 o'clock post game show or?
Oh yeah, we are. Yeah,
okay.
we're doing
I'm just
a
asking.
normal.
Oh,
there's no baseball anymore, bro. There's no.
I just want to see how be prepared because you have this thing you just want to try to trigger me and things like that.
Well, I look, man. It's what it is. What do you want me to do? We'll talk.
No, it's good. It's fun. I have fun.
If Femi wants to play,
but you trigger me. You get the reaction you want, and then you cut me off.
Well, dude, because I'm not gonna let you do. If you missed last week's post game show, by the way, Project Game Day will be back this Sunday. We will be with you early in the day. It'd be nice if the game wrapped up nice and early, and we could have Project Game Day wrapped up by 1 o'clock. That would be wonderful. But we'll be with you. It's all brought to you by AJ Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Myself, Rita, Femi, KZ's telling me he'll be there. Andrew Steck has been hanging out with us. We've been having it's been a lot of fun this season. What happened last week was I turned to KZ because Femi brought something up at the end, and it was perfect. It was a great transition into KZ, and I was prepared to let him do his John Harbaugh shtick because I think we could all have an open conversation about what happened at the end of the half. And then KZ decided to turn it back into Super Bowl 47 somehow. Somehow, Ken Zalis went from a relevant conversation about what had happened in the football game to, and they should have lost Super Bowl 47 too. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
I didn't say they should have lost.
You said something. You took it down.
I said
the
if
path
it was 2 minutes longer, they would have lost.
It was. I'm not gonna do a conversation with you about a game that happened over 10 years ago.
Well, if it was 2 minutes longer, they wouldn't have taken a safety.
I'm just not gonna do that.
How do you know? Have you seen him coach a football game?
Oh, Jesus.
Because they only do that. They only do that as time's expired.
Glenn, you got to give me that one. He walked into it.
Oh, God. Here's our guy. But the funny thing, too, is I went to him for him to do his Harbaugh shtick, and he didn't even give it. He was just like, I don't know.
Because it was tough to do it after Linderbaum came out and said, it's on me.
It was on me.
I mean, what am I supposed to say?
No, but we could still discuss.
He's covering for his coach?
No, but there was still room to discuss whether or not you should even
a good coach would know his center doesn't know what's going on.
No, it's more
a good coach would just run the
what is there to gain with 20 seconds left? And that was the conversation that I was trying to have. There was 20 seconds left at that point. What is there to gain?
To be fair, and you're probably right. I probably went on the deep end.
You did. Glenn,
it had been a long day.
It had been a long day. And the Orioles were getting their asses kicked. I mean, it was just really nobody was in a good mood. The Zoom wouldn't work when we tried to start the show, and I was like snapping at my wife. Like it was a bad day. It was a really
had Baltimore fans trying to return Super Bowl 47.
Ken's going down. Femi is gaslighting me about the edge rush. Like Femi is mad at me that I am bringing up the edge rush thing. It's going to be a recurring theme every week of the season because it's not going to go away. They don't have it, and every time I bring it up, Femi's like, "Well, somebody's going to make a play. Who's going to make the play?" Tell me who it is. Well, it's not the defense's fault. I know it's not the defense's fault, but it still would have been nice to have somebody make a play.
Just wait for Kyle Van Noy.
God. It was a bad day, man.
It was just a bad day.
It's a
I
bad
didn't
day.
even get to the final touchdown because
Ugh.
I was so upset about it, because it was like 87% of the game were in cover 2, but that particular moment.
Okay, but you
let's
know what they
go
were doing
zero
there.
cover.
But you know what they were doing there. They decided that they were either going to get a sack or give up a touchdown. They decided
but-
one of two things had to happen on that play. They
Okay.
either were giving, if they didn't get a sack, they knew that they were going to end up losing the game without seeing the ball again. And the closer, if you try to play defense on that play and the Steelers get closer to recognizing that they can win the game without giving them the ball back, then they're going to go down. You had to do it with enough time left that Pickens knew he needed to go into the end zone and not think about it and say, oh, crap, I should slide down at the 5 so we win the game. So I at first, because and Rita and I got into it the other day, at first I was befuddled by it as well. And then after I thought more through the circumstances, I said, oh, no, I know what they were doing there. They were going true outcome. They are not, because Rita was like, why put Humphrey out there when he's just back from injury? Because they didn't care. Once the ball was out, they didn't care about trying to stop it. They were either getting a sack or they were giving up a touchdown and getting the ball back. So the only debate we could have is like, do you believe that they could have made 2 more plays to force it to be a 50-plus yard field goal? And at Pittsburgh, where goofy things happen, they've got a good kicker though. Like it's not like back in the day when they had. So
okay, I gotta go because I have a hard
right.
out
Love
at
it. Love
11:20,
it.
which it is now.
All right,
love you guys. Thank you.
It's Ken Zalis, Fantasy Pros, and his rankings every week at PressBoxOnline.com as well. We didn't really talk about that this week for whatever reason, but I'll admit initially that I was perplexed about it, but when I looked more into this, they can't come out and say, they can never say they want to give up a touchdown. A coach can't do that because then we're going to spin it as you don't trust your defense, which isn't what he's saying. It's saying in the circumstances, 41-yard line. I don't remember how much time there was left at that point.
When the Pickens,
on the touchdown, it was a minute. It was like a minute
40.
I don't think it was 40. I think it was like a minute 20 something.
Yeah, you're right, because Lamar got sacked, or the strip sack happened with a minute 15, and then the Steelers somehow mismanaged the. Yeah,
well, they got a penalty. Like that's the same thing the Ravens did a couple weeks ago against the Colts. It screwed everything up. Don't. I would recommend you don't get penalties when you're trying to run the clock out. It's a really dumb thing to do. So in that moment, you're in field goal range, but it's at the back end. But if they run another play, if you give up a short completion of 4 to 5 yards, it's poison now. You're now in hell. You're in, if they pick up another first down, you're never seeing the ball again. So you have a choice to make. And it's a very difficult thing because old school football mentality is get the stop. Like, what are you doing? Get the stop. But this is the NFL in 2023 where getting stops is not what it used to be. And at some point on the field, they had to make a decision. When do we go from trying to get a stop to acknowledging that we need to make sure we get the ball back? And when exactly they made that decision, they can't tell you. But if you get under a minute, then it's obvious to the Steelers now. And the Steelers on their sideline are telling the team, don't score. The way that, Patrick Mahomes a couple weeks ago said, I'm not going to score. Now, that would have been different. That would have been a 2-score game at that point, so it wouldn't have been quite as obvious. But in a 2-score game, he knew not to score. This would have still been a 1-score game. It would have been abundantly obvious, don't go into the end zone. Stop. Let the game end with us kicking a field goal. They never see the ball again. So at some point, the Ravens had to make a decision. Where do we go from trying to play defense to either we get a sack or we just don't try? And for them, the good news is it wasn't even blatantly obvious, right? Like, because then once it becomes blatantly obvious, then the receiver is like, well, you're not even trying to.
Right.
Oh, right, because I shouldn't want to score here. But the Ravens still had 2 timeouts left. So I think that George Pickens had to score on that play because if he goes out inside the 10, then you've got to give him the ball
he,
back.
Right. Unless he, I guess, slides at the 1-yard line.
I would think that he would have to
stay in
slide.
bounds.
I think he would have to slide outside the 10 so that you would still have the ability to get another first down without scoring. Once you get inside the 10, it's to the same scenario, right? Like you can – I guess they would have gotten the clock down under 30 seconds. They could have given the ball back to the Ravens with under 30 seconds left and no timeouts. But if you only kick a field goal, it's just a field goal game. That's why it's such an eternal chess match. Like, it's the decision-making that has to happen there. But it absolutely, without them being able to say it, reads as we decided in that moment either we're getting a sack and getting them back out of field goal range or we're giving up a touchdown. Because if this goes any further, we're not going to have the option of giving up the touchdown any longer. And I can't beat them up over that. When we come back in, we're going to preview Ravens-Titans with Derek Rackley, who is on the call for Westwood One, former NFL tight end. Don't forget, the Tyus Bowser Show returns 1 week, not even 1 week, 5 days from now. Next Tuesday night, October 17th, we will be at Mother's North Grill in Timonium with Tyus and a special guest. It's all brought to you by Superbook Sports, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, and AJ Michaels. Find out more, PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. But we will see you next Tuesday for the Tyus Bowser Show, Mother's North Grill in Timonium. The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate Arts Across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, back in here on GCR. Stan the Fan Charles will be back with us tomorrow, but tonight he will be on Zoom. And on Facebook Live, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, at 6 o'clock, previewing the Maryland 5-star with cross-country course builder Tyson Rementer. That's tonight at 6, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it live, you can see it tomorrow, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Ravens-Titans Sunday in London. Joining us now, this man will be on the national radio call on Westwood One. He is former NFL long snapper and tight end Derek Rackley, and he's back with us here on GCR. Derek, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Yeah, you bet, Glenn. Just doing some prep work here before I head down to the airport to take the trip over the pond here tonight.
Long flight. You're not getting out early like the Ravens did. You're coming in.
Yeah. My company decided not to pay for the entire week for me to go out on Monday like they did for the Ravens. However, actually, I did do a back-to-back last year where I stayed out there for 10 days. So I have done it before. But I heard John Harbaugh's comments earlier in the week saying, well, we did it one way the last time and it didn't work out for us, so we're doing it a different way this time.
And you know what's funny, Derek? Like, I have no idea if any of this actually matters or not, right? Like, I don't know if you get to Sunday and any of that stuff matters. But considering how disastrous it was for the Ravens the last time, I think all of us in Baltimore are like, yeah, I'm glad you're doing it that way. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Whatever you did last time, do the exact opposite of that this time around.
It's funny because even John Harbaugh said, like, there's not any actual data or studies or anything out there that says whether or not it's better to go out on Thursday versus going out earlier in the week. But yeah, you know, it's one of those deals where it's like, hey, whatever we did last time didn't work out. So if it's something as simple as us leaving earlier and maybe we get our sleep schedule right by the time Sunday rolls around, let's try something different.
Derek, before we get into talking about this game, I want to run something by you because we had our friend Morgan Cox on the show yesterday.
Okay.
and I love Morgan, right? I don't know anything about this, but I know exactly that Morgan's, a 6-time Pro Bowler, and has been around some of the greatest special teams units in football history. And I asked him, I said, have you ever thought about whether or not you might be the best long snapper in the history of football? And he laughed, and of course, knowing who he is, like, dude, I've never thought about that. But you are a guy that actually knows a thing or two about this, right? Like, you actually have something to offer to the conversation, unlike the rest of us who can't name more than 3 long snappers in the history of football. Is there a chance that, like, he's in that conversation given everything he's accomplished?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a chance he's in that conversation, and I love the fact that he's being humble about it. But let me just give you a quick little background if you weren't aware of this. But back in when I was playing, and I hate to have to say that, but it's the truth, right? I was a rookie in 2000, and I ended up playing through the 2007 season. Back then, they didn't have Pro Bowl long snappers.
Right, they just brought whoever the kicker brought.
Midway through my career, they ended up changing that, and they started the whole advent of bringing long snappers out. And even then, it was the coaches selected a guy, and it had to be obviously somebody from their conference, and it couldn't be somebody on their same team, right? So if, like, you were the Falcons team and you were the Pro Bowl coaching staff that year, you couldn't select your long snapper, right? Well, things have evolved over the years, and now they're to the point to where it's a position that's being selected like any others. And to Morgan Cox's credit, he's been one of the best in the league throughout the, call it the past 10 to 15 years. And so when you start throwing around the amount of games that he's played and the amount of Pro Bowls that he's been selected for, then yeah, he's got to be thrown in that conversation as one of the best ever. I mean, yeah, you could throw out the guys like the Mike Bartrams of the world, Dale Hellestrays of the world. These are guys back, again, in my day or before that snapped for 15, 18 years. Trey Junkin would be another one that was in that category as far as lifelong long snappers. long time in the NFL. But, yeah, definitely Morgan Cox, when I was doing the prep work, and I was like, yeah, I remember this guy from Baltimore, and I was playing on the other side, really, really talented player. Really talented.
All right. I promise everybody that's the end of the long snapper portion of the conversation. I promise we're not going to go further, but it just really did hit me as we were talking. He's such a great dude, and it was great to catch up with him, and it hit me like, wow, like he could be in that list. So I appreciate the fact that I'm not insane and that you backed it up, Derek Rackley.
There you go. There you go.
The Ravens are such a weird team. Both of these teams are really weird teams to figure, right? Like, I think most people think the Ravens are very good, and I think most people think the Titans are not very good. And yet, I'll start on the Ravens side of thing before we go to the Titans, Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know what to make of a team that, again, last week we know the story is they dropped the ball, right? Like, if they just catch the football, they probably win comfortably on the road in Pittsburgh, and they're sitting at 4-1 and undefeated in the division, and life is good. But they didn't do that, and when they faced adversity, things got away from them, and that kind of reminds you of what happened in Indianapolis and so what happened last year before Lamar Jackson got hurt, where they blew a bunch of double-digit leads early in the season. I think the answer is the Ravens are okay and they'll be fine and they're not going to drop 8 balls in a game again. Like it was an anomaly, but the totality of some of these weird results, it just makes me start to wonder, like, is it Patrick Queen's frustration after the game, is it starting to be in their DNA a little bit that they don't handle these situations well?
Well, here's one thing I can tell you, and this is not anything that's mind-shattering by any means, but if you let a team hang around in a game, an NFL team hang around in a game, there's a chance that you're going to get beat, even if you were the dominant team throughout the entire game. And that's kind of what I was thinking as I was going back and I was watching the Ravens last week. I'm watching the game. I'm like, ooh, gosh, there's a drop. Ooh, ouch, there's another drop. Oh, there's a slip and a fall, and that should have been a touchdown. Oh, there's another drop, right? That's what every Ravens fan was thinking, probably with some more choice words and maybe hair pulling out along the way as well. But those are the mistakes, which I've actually already started my keys to the game next week. And for Baltimore, it's simply you can't have the self-inflicted wounds. And a lot of times when you talk about self-inflicted wounds in football, it's false starts. It's holding penalties that get you backed up on drives, which I still think that's the case. But for Baltimore, the self-inflicted wounds are dropping the football, like just doing your job. And you're right, it's probably an anomaly. I mean, they have really good players, and Zay Flowers is a really talented young receiver, but he had a rough week last week, right? And unfortunately, you get thrown in the middle of the spotlight playing in the NFL when you're a rookie and you're one of the first-round draft picks, and you get thrusted into being a focal point of the offense, especially as Odell Beckham Jr. gets back up to speed, and he didn't have a great game, right? And it's part of the reason why they ended up losing, because Pittsburgh's got enough players defensively to where they can make you pay, hang around in the game, and they ended up winning it. So I agree with you. Baltimore is still a good football team. They've got to get back to what they do best. Number one, that's securing the football. I was going back and looking at some of the results in a turnover margin since John Harbaugh's been the head coach. That's one of the things he does, is win the turnover margin, and they're not quite doing that this year. They got to take the football away on defense, and then they just got to simply catch it and possess it on offense.
Derek, aside, if you take away the drops last week, for example, by the way, Derek Rackley is with us on GCR. He's on the call for Westwood One for Ravens-Titans. Derek, if you take away the drops and you just look at the performance, Lamar Jackson was graded out by PFF, and I know that's not Bible, but he was graded out as the best offensive player in the league this past week. I feel like there is enough to me that's encouraging about what has changed in a Todd Monken offense. And we know it's still not perfect, but I still think we should be encouraged by the trajectory and where this is headed for the Ravens offensively and the changes that Todd Monken made this season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think you got a healthy Lamar Jackson, and again, still trying to figure out the nuances of the Todd Monken offense. Obviously had great success with Georgia the past few years, but having to kind of make some tweaks and put his little spin on things back in the National Football League, and that's just a sense of comfort from your quarterback, your offensive line, all the other playmakers that get a chance to touch the ball. But when you've got a guy that's got the electricity that Lamar Jackson does, it's like at any point he can end up taking over the game. And I know that they're, maybe trying not to have him run as much this year, although that is like still the focal point of what he does the best at that position, is his ability to make people miss and pick up first downs in the run game. You got to remember, going back into my generation, I played with a guy named Michael Vick, who was probably, one of the best ones to be able to do all the things that Lamar Jackson is doing back in the 2000s. And a lot of what I see out of Lamar Jackson is the same with Michael Vick, even though Lamar Jackson's probably more accurate than Michael Vick was at this point in his career as far as throwing the football. But the electricity when he's running with it, he gives him a chance to win every game, assuming that the playmakers around him help him out by making some plays, right? Last week, obviously, is the memory that's at the top of our head. But they've still got all the playmakers. They've got the quarterback. They've got the guys out on the perimeter, the offensive line, the defensive. I think they got two of the best inside linebackers in the National Football League. Not saying the best, because San Francisco would probably make an argument that they got a couple of good ones as well. But they got some playmakers all over the field, and probably one of the most clutch kickers of this generation. They're still a really good football team.
Derek, the only thing that is concerned, it's funny because the defense has played out of their minds this season, right? But the edge rush thing, nobody really wants to talk about it because the defense on the whole is playing well. But at the end of the game last week, when one team needed to make a defensive play in order to win it, they were able to do that because they just had somebody who was an ass kicker. And I know that T.J. Watts don't grow on trees, right? Like he's a rare breed. But they had someone who was an ass kicker that could just go win up front and make a play against a really good offensive tackle and win the football game. The Ravens didn't have that. They don't have that guy on this team. I am convinced that for as good as the defense is, when you need to win close games at the end, that has to happen because someone, not scheming your way to pressure, but someone can just go blow things up because they're that good. Yeah. And I would be in the Danielle Hunter market or the Brian Burns market or whatever guys might be out there. Where are you at with what the Ravens present at edge rush at the moment, despite their defense being good?
Yeah, I completely see where you're going because outside of my roles with Westwood One, I also do some work with the Atlanta Falcons here locally. I live in the Atlanta area, and I was kind of making the same argument a couple of weeks ago that they don't have that player out on the edge, much like you're making the argument that Baltimore doesn't. But then I would also say in that same breath that there's probably only, I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe 10 or 15 guys in the National Football League that you could put into that category, like a T.J. Watt. Like a Von Miller when he's healthy, even an Aiden Hutchinson up and coming with the Detroit Lions and some of the other guys down in Dallas, right? Like you've got so many really good pass rushers, but that's the reason why those guys get paid at a premium. That's why they're some of the best in the National Football League because they don't come around very often. But I still feel like Baltimore has some really good players on the defensive side of the ball. Does it always have to be an edge rusher? No, it doesn't. It could be an inside linebacker. It could be a Patrick Queen. It could be a Roquan Smith. But you're right. In the respect that sometimes you just need somebody to go make a play, right? Like in this day and age, we get so swallowed up in X's and O's and schemes and defensive coordinator versus offensive coordinator. Sometimes at the end of the day, you just need somebody to go out there and make a freakish play. Whether that's a wide receiver that goes over the top of somebody on a final drive, that's a defensive end with a pass rush to get a sack in a strip at the end of a game, or maybe it's a defensive back picking off a pass on a final drive. That's not necessarily X's and O's. That's just a premier talented player going and making a play when his team needs it the most, right? And sometimes that's what it boils down to. Pittsburgh got it last week. Baltimore maybe didn't, but maybe they do this week, and who knows who that player is going to be.
On the other side of this on Sunday, Derek, is a Titans team that has similarly been really Jekyll and Hyde this season, right? And I don't think they're a very good team, but they had a hell of a performance against the Bengals, and they beat a Chargers team. How do you figure out which Titans team you're going to get? Is it as simple as if they can establish the run early, they have a chance, and if they can't, they don't really have another pathway in order to be victorious?
Well, they got a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill that's played a ton of football, but I don't think he's doing enough to help this team win. And when I say that, you got 2 touchdown passes against 5 interceptions, and that's going to be tough to win in National Football League when that's kind of your stat line when it's touchdowns to interceptions. Then you couple that with the fact the running game has not been as consistent as they needed to. The one thing that I pointed out when I was doing my research is that the 2 games this year where Derrick Henry had the most carries, 20-plus in a game, and he had his highest production performances in the run game, okay, his 2 highest yardage totals, they've won. In the other 3 games that he's been lower than 20 carries in a game, or he has not hit, like last week, he only had 43 yards on the ground, they struggled. Now, they've got a young player in Tajay Spears that I think is a really nice compliment to him because he's the slasher. He's the guy that's got the quickness. He gets out into open space, and he can make people miss. And then you've got the freight train and Derrick Henry where you get him a little bit of momentum, and I feel bad for somebody that has to try to tackle him, right? But they just haven't been able to get Henry going enough to where he can take over, much like he has earlier on in his career, even the last couple of years. So in my opinion, again, going back to the comment that I was talking about with the Ravens, where you sometimes need guys to make plays, in the NFL, if your best players are not performing, it's going to be hard to win. So for the Titans to be successful, and even if they're going to have a chance to beat Baltimore in London, Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry have to play well. Yeah. They're the two of the best players on this offense. They have to play well. Tannehill has to find DeAndre Hopkins with the football, and Derrick Henry has to be that freight train in the run game that he's done throughout his career. That's what makes this team go. If those two guys aren't playing at a high level, they're going to struggle. It's simple.
Yeah, it sounds simple enough. Now the question is, can the Ravens go slow them down? That is all it comes down to on Sunday. Derek Rackley, of course, you can everybody can follow Derek on Twitter at DRack48 is the way to do it. Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Ravens Titans from London on Westwood One. Derek, really appreciate taking the time for us this morning, man. Enjoy the trip overseas, and we'll catch up again down the road. All right.
Okay, Glenn. Appreciate it. Take care now.
Derek Rackley with us here on GCR previewing Ravens Titans. And speaking of Ravens Titans, Sunday morning in London. It's going to be a fun morning. And the official Ravens Game Watch party for Ravens Titans is happening at one of my favorite places in town, a place where we like to hang out throughout the year. It is, of course, Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. And Paige and Haley from Guilford Hall are in studio. All right, first of all, who's who? So I apologize.
That's okay. No, it's okay. I'm Haley.
You're Haley.
I'm
you're
Haley.
Paige.
That's right. Yes.
Thank you for coming in and hanging out with us.
Thank you for having us.
You have no idea how much I love this place.
Oh, my gosh. We're so glad to hear it.
Love Guilford Hall. Can I pull the curtain back for a second? I remember the first time it was presented to me, hey, we're going to go to Guilford Hall. I hadn't been. And I was like, we're going to Station North to do a show. That's interesting, right?
Different.
I pull up, and I'm like, when did this happen?
Yep.
What is going on here?
Yes.
Like, what a cool – and the fun part for me is now telling everybody else, it seems like Guilford Hall Brewery has, like, changed the neighborhood, has changed the entire area. It has become, like, the place where people hang out and has lifted up kind of the entire surrounding area. How neat has it been to sort of see what Guilford Hall Brewery has done for the entire region?
Yeah, it's absolutely been it's been amazing. I had the same reaction when I joined the team at Guilford, and I actually visited in person. It's a stunning place, and like you said, it's helping to improve the community, bring people together, create a gathering space, and I think that's just been very much needed for that area of Baltimore, and it just makes me absolutely elated to be a part of it.
You walk in and you're just like, wait, there's more? There's
Yeah.
like it's just
It's
unbelievable, the facility. And I know you guys, we're going to get to the party on Sunday, which is bonkers. But like, you guys do weddings, you guys do all sorts of, on top of just being like a cool place to come hang out, have a beer, and get some delicious food.
Oh, yeah. We do a lot of events. We do a lot of off-sites. We love to be, part of the community, no matter what that is. We love to get our name out there. And, yeah, we're just trying to build an empire over here. And that's our first step, is getting our name out there.
It's such a cool place.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for the kind words.
We appreciate that.
I cannot say enough. Anytime someone says, like, well, I haven't been yet, I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're about to watch. Your mind is going to be blown. And, like, I think also part of it is people are kind of used to there's not, like, a brewery on every corner.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm like, no, this place is different.
Yes, it's very different. We also have a full bar, so,
Yeah.
And restaurant.
Yep.
So, you can eat and drink, and we have our whiskey bar. So, it's not just beer. That's the question we get all the time is it just beer? And the answer is no.
And it's also not just bar food. Like, when you say it's a restaurant, like, a lot of people, again, go to places like this, and they're like, all right, we'll get some wings. Like, well, there's an entire damn menu going on here. Like, there is a lot. I had a grapefruit salad the last time I was there.
That one's delicious.
Delicious, by the way. That is a 10.5, the grapefruit salad. I also got the bangers and mash the week before. I'm not always eating grapefruit salads.
He switches it up. Okay,
yeah, mix it up from time to time. This thing on Sunday, and I know you guys have been doing, like, you just had the Oktoberfest event a couple weeks ago that was really cool, and I know you guys say events all the time, but this one is like a 10.5. This is the coolest thing that I think I've ever heard about. You're opening at 8 a.m., and it's just like a celebration of the Ravens and Guilford Hall. What do people need to know about Sunday?
Absolutely. So the event is free to the public. We're going to be the 1600 block of Guilford Avenue will be closed. So in that area, we will have various things. We're gonna have
I didn't realize that part of it.
Yeah,
This is like a full-on block party.
That's
Holy
right.
crap.
So this is definitely one of our biggest events that we've orchestrated so far. So in the 1600 block, right in front of Guilford Hall, there's going to be food, beer, drinks. We're also going to have the Duncan Community Cruiser coming out, which is super, super exciting.
Are there going to
We're
be
big Duncan
outdoor
fans.
screens for the game?
That's right. Yes, we're going to have multiple big screens outdoors. We're going to have a stage. We're going to be doing a DJ before and during commercial breaks, before the game and during breaks. And then we'll also have a band afterwards. So there's going to be plenty of live entertainment, lots of good food. We'll have brunch available. And then some game day street food options, and we're also selling all-you-can-drink wristbands. So those are available on our website. I mean, it's a really, really cool event. You're really getting a good deal.
For a day that starts at 8 a.m. let me repeat this: 8 a.m. And what time do you guys close on Sunday? 9.
So all day.
So
you could stay there and watch more football afterwards.
That's exactly the plan. We'd love to keep everybody around. We'd like to make this an all-day thing, like you said. So yeah, that you're gonna get some good deals, have some good food, and enjoy the game with everybody else. We'd like to bring as many people, as many Ravens fans from Baltimore into our space, and so we can kind of have a collective gathering and make it a kind of touch point.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the things you actually don't know is, unfortunately, it won't be me, but our post-game show that we do, we're one of my co-hosts is going to be at the party on Sunday.
Oh, that's amazing!
And is going to be she's going to be looking for like a quiet place to go.
Yeah.
So I might have to have her seek you out to find if there's a spot where she can go for the post-game show.
Point her in our direction.
Rita's going to be there, but she when she heard the word bottomless mimosas.
Yep.
Yes. That is a key word that people need to know about that.
Tell me a little bit more about the...
Sure. So not only are we offering a unlimited Guilford draft beer option, there's also an unlimited Guilford draft beer and mimosa option. So you can choose either. And I know I'm definitely a mimosa girl myself. I know. I think I've convinced Glenn here. But so we wanted to kind of offer something for everyone.
Wandering over to guilfordhall.com right now.
Grab your wristbands.
A little more information about this.
That's right.
But it's important, again, Paige and Haley are here from Guilford Hall Brewery. It's important to say you don't need to buy a ticket ahead of time just to get in. Anybody can just come hang out starting at 8 a.m. on Sunday.
That is correct. There is a RSVP option on our website. However, it's not required. You're absolutely welcome to come with you and your flock on Sunday. Free to the public, and then the wristbands are the purchase option, food for purchase, and then we're also going to have, moving away from the alcohol topic, we're going to have a kids zone as well, sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. So if you want to bring your kids along, everyone's welcome.
Man!
Something for everybody.
That's right.
Oh, Mrs. Clark might be going without me on Sunday. Might be an awkward day for me. So I know the early bird, that part is over.
That's right.
But still, these prices are pretty freaking good.
Oh, yeah.
All you can drink.
That's right. So we have our all-you-can-drink Guilford draft beer right now for $30, and then the all-you-can-drink Guilford draft beer and mimosas at $35. So, if you think about what you normally be spending at the stadium, you're definitely getting quite a deal
if you're
here.
making the day out of it,
really
you're frankly robbing them.
Pretty
If
much.
we're being honest.
So buy your wristbands.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're going to be there and hang out and watch the 1 o'clock games afterwards, and you are going to come out significantly on top in this process.
That's right. That's right. You're making it'll be a big win, hopefully, Sunday.
Yep.
Big wins all
big
around.
Wins all around.
Yeah, we are rooting for that.
Yeah.
All right,
That's right.
so you mentioned, is there going to be other food specials? Are there going to be anything else going on? First of all, the menu is already quite complete and quite good, but you're not normally open at 8 a.m. on a Sunday.
Sure,
so from a food standpoint, is there going to be anything different?
Yeah, that's definitely an important question. I know where people are going to be hungry early. So we are offering our brunch menu, and then in addition, we're going to have a couple sausage and pretzel stations where you can kind of build your own
No, hang on a second.
Yeah.
You're speaking my love language now. Say that. What do you mean build your own?
So you can you get some toppings in the sausage, and then the pretzels. They're going to be are not our giant pretzels, but they're still very good. So we're going to have some cool appetizer options there, and then Dunkin' Donuts I know is also going to sponsor some coffee cocktail inspired
concoctions. Drinks.
Yes, and they're also serving munchkins that morning. So we got some sweets,
got
we got
donuts,
some savory,
brunch, coffee, cocktails.
Oh, my
That's
God.
right.
What more could you ask for?
This is one of the coolest parties I've ever heard of.
So our restaurant will be open during the party, and you're more than welcome to sit down inside and have brunch. But then the sausage and pretzels and everything that'll be
out
outside
for the block party.
That's correct.
Part of this. Phew. Man, it's hard to keep up with all that's going on
yeah,
Sunday.
I mean, you could get lost in there, but I mean,
and the band will be outside afterwards.
That's correct. The Ruckstones are playing at noon.
Yeah.
Okay,
so they start at noon.
Man, this is such a cool thing. This is such a cool.
Yeah, we're excited.
Like, I mean, is the idea to maybe like do more events like this?
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you had mentioned our Oktoberfest that happened a couple weekends ago. So we definitely like to continue growing that event. That is kind of our anniversary event that we hold annually. So looking to hopefully close down the street again for that next year. But we're just quickly climbing here and quickly growing, and I think we're going to have a lot more opportunities in the future to do big things like
That
this.
is so
and
cool.
Bring people from Baltimore together.
So stay tuned.
Both of you, for anybody who has not been, and you say this is the one beer that you have to try while you're here on Sunday. I'll start, Paige. I'll start with you. First, one beer that you've got to try.
That's a really hard question, Glenn. I will say, I feel like my favorite that you have to try would be.
Ha! It's like picking a favorite kid. It's like
it.
picking a favorite kid right now.
Wait, I know, legitimately. I am a big fan of this might be a turn off to some people. I'm a big fan of our oatmeal stout. So that's a great morning beer.
It does sound like a good morning beer.
It is delicious. It is very chocolatey.
I'll only push back. Probably not a good all-you-can-drink
type
beer.
That's right.
That's
so you want to play it.
Yeah,
right.
I would go a little lighter on the all-you-can-drink beer.
No, for sure.
But try one during the course of the day, then maybe go for the rest of the day.
Yes.
That's the way that I would feel. I just feel like that's not going to go so well if you keep going oatmeal
you're
stout all day
absolutely
long.
right, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we don't want to point anybody in the wrong direction here. But yeah, if you just by the end of the day give the oatmeal stout a try, it's my favorite. I know Haley will probably have a more.
I'm not an oatmeal stout girl, but that's okay.
Right. But that's okay. That's why we work out.
Maybe yours would be a better all-day drinking beer.
Yeah, she probably has better advice there.
Well, I'm more like IPAs type of vibe. We don't really have any IPAs at Guilford, but we do have our BPA, which is our British Pale Ale. Very good, a little bit on the lighter
Fitting
side.
day maybe to try the BPA on Sunday,
yeah.
right?
I feel like that, if people are not really looking for a heavier beer, I feel like that's definitely a better option more than it's kind of similar to an IPA, but just on the lighter version. It's very good.
That's a great suggestion. That totally slipped my mind. I'm glad you
well,
mentioned that,
here,
Haley.
It
isn't here, but yes, get our BPA. It is a little bit hoppier, but still drinkable for those people who don't really like a hop overload. So that's what's great about our beers is that they're just super easy to drink and very enjoyable. And
bunch of different options.
That's
too.
That's
all right,
what we
and
like
give
to
me
push.
one thing that maybe I haven't tried on the menu that I need to try on the menu. One thing.
So let me ask you: have you been for brunch yet?
I've not been for brunch.
Okay, so this will be easy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I get this every time I'm there for brunch. The steak and eggs platter.
Oh my god!
I think it might be called something else on the menu. I should know this, but it's steak and eggs. You get a side of Texas toast, and some. I think it's bacon. I'm not sure. It's a loaded plate. It's delicious.
All right,
it's a perfect
I'm gonna need to. I'm gonna need to request that the next broadcast we do, Tracy, we do it during brunch.
Yes.
If we could make sure the next time we do a live show
Absolutely.
at Guilford. Oh my God, that sounds incredible.
Gotta get you in the brunch.
All right.
Yep.
What about you, Haley? What?
I would say definitely our waffle plate. It comes with waffles with strawberries and Nutella on it, like a chocolate kind of sauce on there. It's very good.
Yeah. And
very rich. And I'm a big chocolate girl, so big sweet
Right.
girl over here. So anything sweet.
The waffles are delicious.
Yeah, they're great.
I will attest to that.
I don't really want to keep working. Can we, Griffin?
Yeah,
can
you
we just
come
like
with us back
cancel
to
the
the
show
brewery.
and go back? Is that possible? Can we just postpone everything else that we have to
cool
do
with
today?
that. I'm
I
cool
can
with
try
that.
it.
Go
Sure.
right back to Guilford Hall because that sounds way more pleasant.
Yes.
Sunday morning,
That's
8
right.
a.m.
8 a.m.
Everything starts,
Yep.
and again, open till 9.
Correct.
Is there a preferred location if somebody need to like catch a quick nap in the afternoon? Is there like a spot maybe like upstairs?
Hey, we
like
can find you a
could,
place.
You know
yeah,
what?
right.
Let's find you a place.
We'll make it work.
All right.
There's plenty of space at Guilford.
It's gonna be such a cool party. It is the official, and the band is gonna be there.
Yep,
That's
band,
right.
The mask,
cheerleaders.
Poe's gonna be there. The cheerleaders, Jimmy Smith's gonna be hanging out.
Yep, we're gonna have some raffles, games, all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
So I am beyond pumped.
It's
I know.
so
gonna be a
cool.
very fun
It's
event.
such a
and
cool
this is,
thing.
And this was also, something that we had to orchestrate in a short time frame. And I know that everyone on our team has been
Amazing.
working incredibly hard to make this happen, and same with the Ravens on their end.
side,
So
yep.
we're just super, super grateful to be a part of this and have this opportunity. So it's just
Let me add one more layer to this.
Sure.
I've never heard organically from more people talking about an event like this,
Well,
like
that's what we
during
like
the
to
course
see.
of the week.
Thank you so much for that
That is
feedback.
music to our ears.
That to me has been the wild. Like when I have heard from people, dude, you're gonna be there, right? Like I'm like, everybody is talking about this
Oh
party.
my gosh,
We love
that
it.
makes me feel
Everybody
so
is
good.
talking about this event, and I think part of it is just it's the perfect location because
Absolutely.
everybody likes Guilford Hall.
That's right.
It is
Absolutely.
the perfect place to be doing.
That's
this.
absolutely right. Yep, and we will have valet parking that morning, so hopefully no headaches there. And
I would tell you too, even in the neighborhood, like there's a lot of parking
100%.
available.
I will
Yep.
tell you, every day when I go to work, nine times out of 10, I easily find a spot. So that's a question we get often. So just for those logistics people who are worried about parking.
Oh, I am so
don't
old
worry.
manish about that. Like
Yeah.
I'm 40
No.
now, and like that's. I've
No,
moved
I'm-
into that phase where I've become my father.
Oh,
No, we
where
get it. We
like
get it.
oh, I don't know
I
if
know
I want to
exactly
be there.
what you
There's no
mean.
There's no
parking.
parking.
No, there's lots of parking.
Yes.
There
It
is
is
parking
not
available.
difficult.
And valet on the
100%.
weekends.
Mhm.
So.
Again, get to guilfordhall.com to get your all-you-can-drink tickets
Yep.
ahead of Sunday.
Yes.
Paige, Haley, and I genuinely mean this. Like, I have loved this partnership. Like, and it is when we come do shows there. Tyus gets excited about it.
Yeah.
Like his teammates get excited about. Oh, that's where the show is.
Yes.
It's been such a perfect place for us to partner up with. I love Guilford Hall Brewery.
Thank you,
We
Glenn.
really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
it's
You
been
have no
it's been a
idea.
super super beneficial partnership for us as well.
Yeah, we love you
our
guys.
next Tyus Bowser show will be November 7th. I'm sorry, November 16th. Wait, November 7th.
Mhm,
November
November
7th. At Guilford Hall. So that's coming up too with Pressbox.
Oh, this makes me very happy.
out
This
our
all makes
website.
me so happy that we'll be back there.
Glenn, thank you so much for all the accolades. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
No,
really
it's
appreciate
genuine.
it.
Love to hear
It's
that.
genuine. It's so much easier when you partner with somebody and you like actually like the product.
Yes,
like
it
it's
is.
so
Yes,
much
it's a whole
easier
new
to
world.
do these when you're like, no, that's a place I like to be.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Love it. This is gonna be awesome on Sunday. Thank you for coming in and hanging
Thank
out
you
with
so
us
much for
this
having
morning.
us.
We're so excited.
We're so excited.
It's Paige and Haley from Guilford Hall Brewery. Again, Sunday morning is the party. Griffin, can we take a break or do we need to?
Yeah, we can take a
All
break.
right, let's grab a break then. Let's grab a break. We'll come back in. Kenny Albert's going to join us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of Pressbox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 17th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels. And if you or a loved one have a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. ajmichaels.com.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
All right, back in here on GCR as we are winding down for a Thursday edition of the program. Again, that's the place to be on Sunday for Ravens-Titans. God, what else could you be asking for? And I mean that. Like, that's genuine. And I know that all of our crew that comes out for the Tyus Bowser Show, I've heard from everybody this week about how fired up they are for Sunday morning, and appreciate Paige and Haley from Guilford Hall Brewery stopping by. They even left behind some beer for us. So what else could you ask for? That is awesome. I love that. Really great to catch up with our next guest. I'm about 6 chapters into his new book, A Mike for All Seasons. And so the good news is, because chronologically his time in Baltimore was at the beginning of his career, it's also at the beginning of his book. So I've already gotten through most of the Baltimore stuff in his book, and if you are someone whose nostalgia includes the Baltimore Skipjacks and Gene Ubriaco and Barry Trotz, and that just gets your juices flowing, you're going to be really excited about reading A Mike for All Seasons. He is, of course, Fox NFL play-by-play voice amongst basically everything else. The great Kenny Albert is back with us here on GCR. Kenny, it's Glenn. It's always good to catch up, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
No problem, Glenn. Anytime.
Kenny, you know what really came off to me in reading the Skipjacks years of your book is how genuine it was that it meant this much to you. And not to take anything away from anything else you wrote, because I get it. Your life was in New York, and you grew up around the Rangers, and I did not know that you were a Canucks fan. But it was really cool to me to read about how serious it was that your time in Baltimore was this meaningful for you in this incredible career that you have had.
Well, it really was, Glenn, and I appreciate you reading the book. And the 2 years in Baltimore, as I wrote, I wouldn't trade those in for anything. Loved living in Owens Mills, loved working in Baltimore at the Baltimore Arena for the Skipjacks. It was right around the time when Camden Yards was getting constructed, so I actually attended the last game at Memorial Stadium as a fan. I was at the first game at Camden Yards, did a radio show across the street prior to the game, and then lived 3 years elsewhere in Maryland. I lived in Bowie for a year, then Rockville for 2 during my time with Home Team Sports. But so many great memories from those years, rooming on the road with Barry Trotz, who was our assistant coach, who's now the third winningest coach in NHL history, various events around Baltimore with the team, and a lot of great friends that I'm still close with from those 2 years back in the early 90s.
I don't want to give away everything from the book because I know you want people to buy it and read it. But there's the John Miller story in there that, by the way, it makes as anyone who has ever had a conversation with John Miller knows. In fact, whenever we book John Miller on the show, we always purposely have a rule that we don't book another guest for at least 30 minutes afterwards because that's the way that it goes. And so that was maybe one of the most relatable stories that you had told to me in the book, was that you brought John Miller up and you ended up bleeding into much of the game because when he gets going, you just sit back and listen.
Right. He brought his family to a Skipjacks game and was nice enough to join us as a guest in between periods. And those intermissions are usually around 15 minutes long, and we have a couple of commercial breaks. And his stories were so tremendous that he stayed with us probably for the first 5 minutes of the period just so we can get through all of them.
Yep. That's about right. That's John Miller, man, and you don't want to get in the way. You don't ever want to slow him down because the stories are too good. There's no reason to. The other thing that was genuine to me, Kenny, in reading that portion of the book was you portraying what the relationship that the Skipjacks had with Baltimore. Like the Skipjacks mattered. And I know you talk about how you hadn't done a lot of sales, but I don't know, man. I it's sad to me because I did grow up at a time. I was a young person. I have those memories, and my dad and I went to Skipjacks games, and there were kids that wore Skipjacks sweaters in my elementary school. Like it mattered. It was a real thing, and it kind of brought back a little bit of a sadness for me that it has been this long that there has been no hockey in Baltimore whatsoever.
When I moved down there, Glenn, in the summer of '90, I had heard so many stories around the office, around the arena, around the city about the Clippers, who had been a minor league hockey team throughout the 60s, 70s, into the 80s, and then the name changed to the Skipjacks. And, during weekday games, we may have only averaged 2,000 or 3,000 fans in a big arena, so it looked empty, but they were rabid fans. But on weekends, and especially games against Hershey, when so many of their fans would come down, an hour and a half drive, down 83 from 81. And, some of those games we would have 6,000 or 7,000, 8 or 9 at times. So it was a pretty rabid fan base. Got to know a lot of the fan club members at the time, and just great memories. And, it is somewhat sad that there hasn't been hockey in Baltimore for such a long time. I know I chronicled in the book that legend has it that in 1967, it was between Philadelphia and Baltimore for an NHL expansion franchise. It wound up going to Philly and the Flyers, obviously, but it was a rabid fan base. Fans in Baltimore loved their sports. I mean, at that time, it was only the Orioles. The Ravens had not moved yet to Baltimore. The Capitals and Bullets, played in Landover at the time, so I know they did have a fan base. The Bullets had been in Baltimore, obviously, until the mid-'70s, and then moved down to the Capitol Center, which became the U.S. Air Arena. So it wasn't really that long removed. It was only 14 years since they had played in Baltimore. And when I lived there, they still played 3 or 4 home games in Baltimore every season. So it's a great sports town. I was so happy to see the Orioles' success throughout the 90s once Camden Yards opened up. And obviously the Ravens have had great success as well.
He is Kenny Albert again. The book is A Mic for All Seasons, and we've linked it up on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio for you to go find it. Kenny, I wonder if I could, because maybe you eventually say these exact words later in the book. As I mentioned, I'm only the first 6 chapters in. But when you talked about those years and establishing yourself, and you had already had some opportunities at a level much higher than anyone your age probably had opportunities. But I feel like it would have been easy for you to just stay in New York, never go do anything else. You're Marv's son. You could probably take on roles moving forward, stay right there. But it felt like almost the unspoken part of what you were saying about the years in Baltimore and then with the Capitals were that it was important for you to establish yourself away from your dad, your uncles, your family, and to be your own person in your own place and your own broadcaster. Was I reading into that correctly?
That's definitely a big part of it, but it was a different time back then, Glenn. When I think back to when I finished college, and I did have some opportunities to fill in on 4 New York Islanders games during that prior season, and that's actually the tape that I used and wound up getting the job with the Skipjacks. But, back then there weren't as many teams, there weren't as many networks, the internet didn't exist, satellite TV didn't exist. So all of the play-by-play broadcasters, which is what I wanted to do in the New York area, they were all veterans. They had been with their teams for 10, 15, 20 years. So, there certainly were not any openings at the time, and my goal was to work hockey on the radio and sent a lot of tapes around, and had heard that there was an opening with the Skipjacks from a couple of people, and very fortunate to get hired. The owner, Tom Ebright, and his wife, Joyce, Alan Rackton, Jim Riggs, who were the marketing and PR executives with the team. I went and met with them in Mount Gretna, Pennsylvania, which is where the Ebrights had a summer home, and the rest is history, I guess. But again, just so lucky. So many things had to take place, just for the job to be open at the time. And I had those tapes from the Islanders, and then most occasions broadcasters would get a minor league job first and then try and work their way up to the NHL or to another major league sport. But in my case, I did have a couple of sample tapes from those Islander games, and that's what I wound up sending, and was hired by the Skipjacks in June of 1990.
Kenny, the other thing that jumped out at me in reading, and in every part of it, reading about your family, reading about, just some of the kind of almost anomaly, some of the silly moments that you've been able to experience in the NFL over the years. I think the other thing that jumped out at me was just the joy that you have for all of the opportunities, that it's just a genuine appreciation for where you are. And I don't know if that's what drove you in writing the book, but it came off just like, wow, I've really been able to experience a lot of really neat things, and I'm just genuinely appreciative of that.
Well, I never feel like I'm going to work. There's so much work and travel involved. And just to give you an example, I worked a hockey game in Boston last night for TNT, the Bruins and Blackhawks, and the Rangers open up in Buffalo today. I still do about 2/3 of their games on radio, and believe it or not, no flight early enough from Boston to Buffalo in the morning. So last night, 4 hours in a car from Boston to Syracuse. I was not driving, fortunately.
Okay.
I did get some sleep. And then 2 hours this morning, just get out of an Uber from Syracuse to Buffalo. So that'll be a travel tale for the next book. But it would have taken an early morning flight, but there was not one. Didn't want to take a chance on connection. So, but to get back to your original question, and by the way, tomorrow fly to LA for a football game on the back end of this trip. But just so lucky, fortunate, never feel like I'm actually going to work. There's a lot of work and travel involved and sacrifices, missing most of the weekends with the family, but tried to take advantage of the schedule. My kids were young, and I was there for a lot during the week. So it was sort of the reverse schedule that most parents would have, although it's pretty much the norm in this business.
Yeah, and obviously, again, as you point out, you're not digging ditches, right? Like, I get it.
No, exactly.
You're not, it's watching sports and calling sports and having incredible connections with amazing people. Kenny, I think for local fans, again, and I admit I'm not deep enough yet to know everything, but the last time you and I talked was right after Tony Siragusa passed away, and I got the sense for what he meant to you, but in reading the book, it was even deeper to me, because talking about the experiences that you had, and it was interesting to me that you said, like, these are things I wouldn't have done. Like, I wouldn't have gone out and done these things away from the broadcasts, but I did it with Goose and because it was Goose. And I think for everybody in this town that knows Tony Siragusa, none of that is inherently surprising. Like, that's just the way that he lived his life. He was always over the top. But how personal it came off, for you and the experience that you had because of Tony Siragusa, that was really special to me, and it even stood out as being unique. When you list all of the incredible partners you've had over the years, it seemed like that one was maybe even a little bit more personal.
Well, during the football season, as a production group for one of the networks, you wind up spending Friday morning through Sunday evening with your group, with your fellow broadcasters, the producer, the director, some of the other production folks. We arrive in a city on Friday morning. We go to practice. We talk to coaches and players. We have dinner Friday night. Saturday, with Tony, there was often an activity in the morning. We would go to lunch. Then we would have dinner at our production meeting, and then you do the game on Sunday. So you wind up spending more time during those 4 months with your group than with your family, and they become like family. And working with Tony and Darryl Johnston together for 8 years, that's a lot of weekends together. That was 20 games a year, a preseason game, 17 regular season games, and then a playoff game 5 years in a row. We worked a Pro Bowl together. So that's 160 3-day weekends that we spent together. So when you add it up, that's a lot of time, and you become like family. And like you said, Tony liked to live life to its fullest. He was not one who enjoyed sitting in a hotel room doing nothing.
Yeah.
So oftentimes on Saturday morning, if we were in Buffalo, where I am now, for a Bills game with Tony, we would be out on a jet boat at Niagara Falls. One time in Dallas, the only time I ever held and shot a gun at a at a gun range. In Charlotte, Tony actually drove a race car. I sat in the passenger seat of another one with a professional driver. Went around 3 or 4 times at 150 miles an hour. Tony and I were soaked by Shamu at SeaWorld in San Diego. We sat right outside the tank. So, and many other examples. But such great years. You know, we lost them way too soon last June, and think about them often.
It was powerful to read about, and I appreciated how it came off very genuinely different than anything else. The other storyline, and again, I can't wait to read more, but like it almost felt like, in a way, you alluded a couple times to, I kind of wish I was writing this book after the Rangers won another Stanley Cup, and I appreciated like that you had the opportunity to call them winning a Stanley Cup the first time because of, you know, going over to work with NHL radio. But like, given all the time there and like doing it for the Rangers, it seems like that's pretty clearly the thing that's still out there, like the bucket list thing for Kenny Albert at this point.
Well, maybe we'll have to write a sequel someday. I was lucky enough to call that game in '94 for NHL radio when they beat Vancouver in Game 7. It's been 28 years that I've been associated with them, attended their games as a youngster, you know, for the 20 or 25 prior to that. So it's not easy to win, as you know, in any league. And in the NHL, there are 31 other teams, but I think this year they have as good a chance as anybody. They went to the conference final 2 years ago. Have a new coach this year in the former Capitals head coach, Peter Laviolette. They get started tonight in Buffalo, and it's a tough league. There are a lot of good teams in both conferences, but I think for the next 3 or 4 years with this core group, the Rangers certainly have as good a chance as anybody in the East.
All right. The important question for everybody around here is, what would it mean to you to be on the call if and when? I don't know where we're at this point, but I think it's going to happen. Ovechkin breaks the scoring record.
Yeah, it kind of looks inevitable at this point, right?
Yep.
You know, within about 72, I think, of Wayne Gretzky, and it's been, you know, a lot of fun to call his games through the years. I was on the radio call for Westwood One when the Caps won the Cup, you know, in Las Vegas back in 2019, and getting to work with Wayne Gretzky over the last couple of seasons and hearing his comments. He's certainly a big Alex Ovechkin fan, so got to call Connor Bedard's first NHL goal last night.
It's pretty cool.
Called Wayne Gretzky's last goal in 1999, so that would certainly be exciting if the stars aligned and Ovechkin broke the record either against the Rangers or on a TNT national telecast.
Boy, Bedard, I know there's like the sport has been loaded. This is maybe the disappointing part, is like the sport has been loaded with young stars in recent years. Like between the Austin Matthews of the world and McDavid, like, but boy, Bedard looks like he's going to be the real deal, huh?
Oh, he really does. Saw him for the first time in person last night, met him briefly before the game. And when you think about some of the young players that have come into the league recently, Connor McDavid a decade ago, Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes, Connor Bedard certainly looks like the real deal. The way he was darting all over the ice, and every time he has the puck, it seems like there's a scoring chance on his stick. So it was exciting to be there last night when he scored his first goal, picked up his first point the night before in Pittsburgh, and looks like he's going to be one of the superstars in the National Hockey League for a long, long time.
I think there's going to be a lot of him in a major media market, too. I think there's going to be a lot of Connor Bedard on national TV for a long time to come. Kenny Albert, I'm looking forward to diving back in. I've really enjoyed the read and just how kind of genuine the whole thing is. A mic for all seasons available right now. We've linked it up on our Twitter account. And again, for Baltimore sports fans, there is a lot in there for you to dive into. Kenny, really appreciate taking the time for us. Even the fact that you continue to put over your boy Coleman, I still am willing to read and put over this book, despite the fact that you continue to make it seem like Jerry Coleman is somehow a decent guy and not the big piece of crap that we knew. That's not true. I love Coleman. I love him. That's my guy.
You know, I'm sure people will be interested in the Baltimore area to read the stories about Jerry. met him in 1990 as well when I started with the Skipjacks. We had some mutual friends, and hopefully your listeners will pick up a copy of the book and they can read all about my days in Baltimore and some anecdotes with Jerry and Nestor. We did a show together back in 90, 91, 92. That's where it all started in downtown Baltimore. So thanks for having me on, Glenn. As always, really appreciate it. Great chatting with you, and thanks for reading the book.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kenny. Kenny Albert, again, A Mike for All Seasons is the book, and if you are a Baltimore Skipjacks, I'm telling you, if that's your piece of nostalgia, is the Skipjacks, you're going to need to read the book. You're going to need to pick it up. All right, winding down for a Thursday edition of the program. Griffin, you want to tell everybody what's coming up at Live Casino and Hotel?
Yes, of course I do. I want to tell you about the Second Chance to Win promotion that they're running right now. Maybe, like me, I took Connor McDavid to score a goal last night, and then the Oilers to also win.
I didn't realize that you were this level of degenerate. I didn't realize that you had reached that point of this.
It was not even close. Vancouver.
But you don't really
the
like.
Oilers.
I know that you know who the players are and you have passing interest, but you're not really.
I like Connor McDavid a lot.
I get it, but you're doing some shtick when you try to portray yourself as a hockey person. You're moderate. It's like me when I was your age. Like I was moderately into hockey, but I didn't really know hockey.
Well, I'm not gonna say I don't know hockey.
Griffin, you're not that guy. You're betting. I get it. I bet on Ukrainian ping pong. All right, so let's settle down. I bet on things I don't know anything about. But I didn't realize that's where you were. Was that you were just betting on hockey now on top of everything else?
Terrible. Vancouver beat them 8-1.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I don't really understand how you could bet on any individual in a sport like that. In baseball, you're betting on the pitchers, right? But in hockey and basketball, I don't really understand how you ever bet on those individual regular season games. I really, and I mean that. I don't know how people do it.
Edmonton's good. If luck wasn't on your side in a recent bet,
everybody would just tell you, just bet all the home teams all year long. Just bet nothing but home teams, and you should come out roughly on top.
Guess that's what well.
Anyway, go ahead.
At the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino in Hotel, Maryland, get ready to turn your losses into winning opportunities with the Second Chance to Win promotion. Between now and January 4th, 2024, all Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to enter their losing bet slips into the Second Chance to Win drum. And 2 nights a week, 20 different winners will be chosen. Prizes ranging from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports, and social, ultimate happy hour prizes, plus cash and free play worth up to $500, all over at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland. Drawings will be held every Thursday and Monday. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I feel like we need a little bit more, just slightly more of you. Not like a ton.
I can give you a lot more, man.
I mean, I don't mean that like in general. I just mean like right now a little bit more. This is actually a good tweet from Jeff. Jeff said, Glenn, I feel like if tonight your wife rolled over and whispered into your ear, all you could eat, make your own sausage bar, it would be better than anything she's ever said to you before. And the answer, Jeff, is yes. That is correct. I would prefer that. All right, let's get a tidbit. Man, I got really excited. Make your own what does that even mean? And I'm thinking about, like, you can put some
way to find
onions,
out.
peppers, and, like, all the various accoutrement that you could do on your Maybe I'll get down there for the later games on Sunday. Oh, I would love that. Tidbit is brought to you today by the print issue of Pressbox. Last couple of days for this print issue before it is gone. Daddy, gone. The love is gone. Lamar Jackson on the cover. Great story from Bo Smolka. Go pick it up. There'll be a baseball-themed issue out early next week. Available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. What you got for us?
The Phillies in the third inning of Game 3 of the NLDS against the Braves. Last season, they sent 10 hitters to the plate, 6 runs, 2 home runs, one of those coming from Bryce Harper.
Okay.
This season,
they
sent 10 hitters to the plate. They scored 6 runs, hit 2 home runs.
One of them by Bryce Harper.
One of them by Bryce. That came from Paul Hembo.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's Mike Greenberg's producer.
Yes. The Dodgers, they have had 317 regular season wins in their last 3 seasons and no World Series appearances, the most by any team in a 3-season span. The most wins by any team in a 3-season span and not have a World Series appearance during that stretch.
Okay. I mean, It's got to be
Playoff
crushing.
choke artists.
It's got to be crushing for them that the only World Series they won was not a real World Series. Like, and I mean that not to take. I hate having this conversation about it because then like people are like, "Oh, who's the real champion?" You know what I mean? They didn't get to play any games at home. The community didn't get to have any feel for it. I understand it was the season that happened and everybody had the same opportunity. So, despite it being a short season, they were the champions. But, like, it's not real. A championship is something that your community can embrace and feel. And as awkward as it's been, the way that they've talked about it, I've understood what the Orioles have said. We're like, we had to get we would have been unlucky if our window had been 2020. Like, imagine if that was, you had gone all in as a team for 2020, and then that's what you got out of it. Can't sell any tickets, can't. So, I don't know how to, like, I don't know what Dodgers fans feel. Like, they will forever get to say, well, we won a World Series, but you didn't. Like, you won something else. It's not the same for the Lakers because, like, unless you're 8 years old, you know, like, you're a Lakers fan, you remember the real championships that your team won. There were a lot of those. Tons of them. 5. And then if you're a little bit older than that, you know, even more. But the Dodgers, that's the one of the modern era. I just don't know. I don't know what it feels like for Dodgers fans. It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, like, when I went to the Dodgers game, and they have, you know, like, the big banner and the
I mean,
and
like,
it's like, yeah, I guess
they should
it
because
feels,
it did happen. Like,
right.
they shouldn't not
acknowledge and
right.
Yeah.
Like, it occurred. They won this thing, but we just all know it's not the same. And I for a Dodgers fan, they can't even pretend like it was the same because well, I don't know. They don't know any better. They don't know what it's like to really win a championship. Again, unless you're old enough, you'd have to be probably about 40 to have experienced Kirk Gibson and like what that meant. But for anybody younger than that, hell, even if you're 40, well, you were what, 5 at that point? I don't even know how much that means to you. You probably have to be closer to 50 in order to have that memory. Lakers fans know, like they know the difference. I don't know if Dodgers fans understand it, but like anybody who's ever been in a city that won a championship, if you can't have a touch, it's not the same. It's not. And I get it in the NFL. The Ravens didn't host, in either year they won the Super Bowl, they didn't host a game after the wild card round of the playoffs. So it's not like they were hosting every game, but you still had big community rallies and events, and the players were out in town and doing it was real. It was a thing that was happening that you could touch and you could feel. And when you lose all of that, it's just not the same. It's really crazy that that's all the Dodgers have to show for this era of baseball.
The angle, obviously, that
I guess they would say it's better than the Padres, who have nothing to show for it.
Going into tonight, obviously, it is Chiefs Broncos, and the Broncos have not won this matchup since September of 2015.
15 straight.
I saw a great tweet from
Is that the longest? I assume that's got to be the longest, right?
I would assume
I can't imagine
so.
there's
I
a
know.
series that's
Yeah.
been more than 15.
It feels so weird because in the AFC North, it's just everything's so.
Well, I mean, like the Patriots
volatile.
probably dominated the Bills for a few
Right.
years, but then that changed a couple years ago. I'm trying to think of who even like that possibility would be at this point.
So the great tweet came from KC Sports Network on
Okay.
Twitter, and it said things that didn't exist the last time the Broncos
Okay.
won
All
a
right.
game against the Chiefs. Disney Plus was obviously not around.
No.
Fortnite did not exist.
Wow, really?
Game of Thrones Season 6 didn't exist.
Okay.
The song Hello by Adele was not even out yet.
Okay.
The Star Wars sequel trilogy had not even came out yet.
I think most people would be good if it never happened.
Stranger Things was not around.
Yeah.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man did not exist. No
Oh
appearances.
God, our last Spider-Man was
movies,
effing Andrew Garfield.
And White Claws, of course, did not exist.
Wow,
either.
that's
I
fun.
was starting as a sophomore.
Okay,
in
let's
high
not
school.
pretend like 8 years ago is like an eternity ago, but I get it.
feels like-
In the context of football in particular, it is. Hell, was that before Trump?
Yeah.
Obama was
2015,
still president
so-
at that point. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's wild.
The Broncos have also lost 10 straight games after having a lead at halftime. They've already lost 3 games this season by having a lead at halftime. It's the longest streak of any
By the way,
team.
what a wacky bit it was, like the Jets acting like they had won the Super Bowl because they won the Nathaniel Hackett game. Like you're the prettiest girl at fat camp. You know what I mean? Like what a weird I mean, acting like they won a bowl game because they won between the two worst teams. God, it's so embarrassing. Well, the Panthers have to be in that conversation.
What I'm hoping is maybe the Broncos are leading at half, and so the odds.
Oh, and so that
live
allows
bet the Chiefs.
Yeah, right.
They're obviously they're not going to lose. It was weird because the Broncos had won 7 in a row.
Even if the Broncos are leading at half, my guess is that the odds aren't going to be all that great.
Harper had 2 home runs last night. He now has the most home runs ever in NLDS history.
Okay.
He's also the 7th Phillies player to hit have a multi-home run game in the postseason. So got me thinking about players with the most multi-home runs.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me who the other Phillies were.
Do you want to try that? I have that.
You have it?
Yeah.
Hell, what are we doing? It's 12. What's the difference?
Yeah.
We have it used to be 12:30 was our out. What the hell is going on around here?
I guess it's my fault.
Is it? I don't know whose fault it is.
Do you want to do the Phillies or do you want to do? I was going to do.
We can try the Phillies. Which one do you think we should do?
There's less on the Phillies list of the list of guys I was going to ask for, so I think you could.
You said there's 7?
Yeah. You could.
And one of them is Harper?
Yeah, one of them's Harper. So there's 6 more. You should easily
get 4 and a multi-home run game in the playoffs. I'll assume Michael Jack Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt is not on this list.
Oh, boy. This
is
not starting well. Ryan Howard.
Ryan Howard is, of course, on the list.
Dale Murphy?
No, not Dale Murphy.
Chase Utley.
He had 2. I guess it's going to give away my next tip if I do it tomorrow. But whatever.
Because he's on the multi. Yeah.
But yes, 2 multi-home run games for Chase
I'll
Utley.
keep going with that era of Phillies. Shane Victorino.
You should. Not Shane Victorino.
Hunter Pence.
Not Hunter Pence.
Jimmy Rollins.
Not Jimmy Rollins.
Jason Worth.
All
right. Got there eventually.
Yeah.
So I need.
Seems like these Phillies teams, I guess they always need a guy with just long hair.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
Yeah.
Well, has Stott had a multi-home run game?
No, not Stott.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking Brandon Marsh with the.
Marsh with the home run. Yeah.
The long hair. Yeah.
Yeah. Reese Hoskins.
Reese Hoskins, yes, does have a multi-home run game. What did they say he'd be available?
Yeah, I heard something because
they get to the
I
World
saw
Series?
a tweet last night
way.
like that if when Buxton came into the Twins game, like I saw a Phillies fan say like imagine what the reception would be if Hoskins comes back for the World Series. All right, there's still
2 more.
2 more. John Kruk.
Not John Kruk.
Darren Dalton.
Not Darren Dalton.
Boy. Should I be thinking current or?
No, not current.
Not current.
But a modern player.
A modern player.
He's not active, but.
Modern player, not active. How about? I was gonna say Schwarber, but
yeah, not Schwarber.
Not active.
He was on that. He won 2 World Series titles. One with the Phillies, and then another one with a team that won it in the 2010s. I guess
Pat Burrell.
Pat Burrell, a multi-home run game for the Phillies.
Makes sense.
And then finally an older. I guess he's not that old, but an old. He was with the Phillies in the 90s, early 90s.
And it's not Dalton or Kruk. Lenny Dykstra?
Lenny Dykstra. There's a multi-home run game with the
That guy's a psychopath. What a whack job that guy is. All right,
well done.
Very good. Yeah, how about know your Phillies,
I'm
right?
surprised Mike Schmidt's not on there.
Yeah, it's really weird that Mike Schmidt isn't on that. I mean, again, this goes back to there were fewer playoff games back then.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal. Very good. Tidbit was also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Tubular brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. Hiring event Saturday, October 28th, the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road. You can go through the entire hiring process, application, as well as the written test, the agility test. Find out more about the specialized units and what your career opportunities could be in the Baltimore County Police Department. And for everybody else, it's just a fun community event, trunk or treat. Bring the kids in the costume, nice, safe environment for them to go around and get some candy. Find out more, join BaltimoreCountyPD.com or call 410-887-5542. Indeed, Broncos-Chiefs tonight. opens up NFL Week 6, Amazon Prime Video, 8:15. I don't know why. For some reason, I put the pitching matchup for the baseball game next to the football game when I posted Tubular.
Who knows?
I don't think Spencer Strider is going to go for the Broncos, but, you know.
They might need him.
Who knows? Game 4 between the Braves and Phillies is at 8 o'clock tonight on TBS as Philadelphia tries to close it out. Ranger Suarez is on the mound against Spencer Strider. Also tonight, some college football. Fox Sports 1, West Virginia, Houston at 7. SMU, East Carolina at 7:30 on ESPN2. I don't know. Everything else, go to GlennClarkRadio.com. The Wizards play another preseason game tonight, 7 o'clock against the Hornets on Monumental Network. Non-sports-wise, anything that stands out?
Not really. Frasier, actually, the revival of
It's on
Frasier.
Paramount Plus.
It is on
That's
Paramount Plus. Loki at 9 o'clock.
And apparently it's shifted back to Boston.
Really?
But they're not going to do anything with Cheers, which is a very weird. I was never really a Frasier guy, but I respect that it was a quality program. Also, I'm pretty sure one of the key writers from Frasier is not back for this. So there's I think
hope.
There's a little bit of nervousness from people. Kelsey Grammer, I don't think he ever went like I don't care. Kelsey Grammer is a Republican. That doesn't bother me in any way. Like I don't care who anybody, I like plenty of content from people that are Democrats. I like plenty of content that people from Republicans. But like I've seen a few people compare like the Roseanne thing where like they tried to bring back her show, but she was such a psychopath that like she couldn't help but be like racist and just say terrible things, and so they had to cancel it. I don't think Kelsey Grammer is that. I think he's just conservative, and that's fine. I have no problem with anybody having political beliefs as long as it doesn't go extreme, as long as it doesn't go to the place where like, you're rooting for terrible things to happen. So I think it's fine. I think that like this is just I was never a big Frasier person, so I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of it.
There is a Netflix show. It's based on Edgar Allan Poe like stories.
October, that makes sense.
The Fall of the House of Usher. And this one does not look like it's for me. It looks terrifying.
Is anybody involved with it?
So that's what I was gonna get. So it looked like kind of like an interesting story, but again,
I just went up
scary.
to an immersive Edgar Allan Poe experience a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah. So maybe
in Mount Gretna of all the random things.
But so I was completely out of it just because like this is way scary. I'm not gonna be able to watch this. And then Mark Hamill shows up at the end of the trailer, and he plays some guy that is important. And I was like, whoa. And like he's like the old sage, I guess, or something. And I was like, oh. I want to see Mark Hamill, what he's doing.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
And
Mark Hamill doesn't do anything.
I know.
This is a very weird thing for him to choose to do.
The Fall of the House of Usher.
I would probably be. It's a show or it's
so like they and it's like a modern kind of it's this pharmaceutical empire, like it's a brother, it's like a family or something, and then weird otherworldly things come in and start killing like the rest of the guys like board of directors or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's like very gory and too much for me.
I'm willing to listen. I don't know. I'm willing to listen. That's it?
Yeah, that is
okay,
it.
very good.
That is it. Those are the highlights.
Thanks today to Derek Rackley. Thanks to Kenny Albert. Thanks to Ken Zalis. We had all Dereks and Kens today. It's a strange way that today worked. Thanks to Derrick Mason and to Paige and Haley from Guilford Hall for stopping by. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Stan will be in tomorrow morning. We will do some sort of final thoughts. Mike Elias met with the media today, so we'll talk about some of the things that he had to say and do some baseball tomorrow. Noah Eagle is going to join us tomorrow. Of course, the son of Ian Eagle. Interesting that we had Marv Alberts and Ian Eagle's sons on back-to-back days on the show. Noah Eagle will join us. He's calling Maryland, Illinois for NBC and anything. Stuff and things. Okay, stuff and things. I'd like to do some baseball tomorrow. Yeah. I'd really like to do that. Thanks, everybody at Pressbox. All of our great sponsors and partners, including Guilford Hall Brewery, Live Casino and Hotel, the Maryland 5-Star, A.J. Michaels, Baltimore County Police Department, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Superbook Sports, Harford County, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Do we care about anything? No, we don't. Duke sucks.